This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is Tuesday, the 15th of October, 2024. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is news to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. Caribbean Airlines Limited pilots, represented by the Trinidad and Tobago Airline Pilots Association, delivered a letter to the Ministry of Finance yesterday. They also held a silent demonstration outside the Eric Williams Financial Complex along Independence Square in Port-of-Spain. Dressed in full uniforms, the pilots gathered outside the financial complex and voiced their joint frustrations over prolonged delays in salary negotiations, having worked under expired contracts for the past 9 years. They cited concerns about job security, lower wages compared to foreign pilots, and the airline's proposal of a 20% salary cut. The pilots also criticized the government for what they called its inadequate response to their proposals, which have further delayed negotiations. During the protest, they delivered the letter to Minister Imber, under whose purview Caribbean Airlines falls. The Director of Public Prosecution, Roger Gaspard, SC, has instructed Narad Sankar be charged with murder of his wife, Laura Sankar. The husband and wife reportedly got into an argument after the deceased got a message on her mobile phone from the carrier, and she was accused of chatting with someone. Narad, who was said to be intoxicated at the time, chopped his wife to death. 34-year-old Sankar, the mother of two, was chopped to death at the family home near Princestown on Saturday night. A 15-year-old student of Faizabad Secondary School is having medical treatment after he was reportedly punched by a schoolmate who wore a brass knuckle, covered his face with a mask, and wore gloves. His mother is now seeking legal redress and a transfer. As she said, weeks after the incident, the bully is still at the school while his son is missing classes. Neither police nor the Ministry of Education has acted in their interest, in her opinion. Instead of going to school on Monday, the Form 3 students spent the day at the Point Fortin Hospital having treatment and a CT scan to unveil what injuries he may have suffered in the unprovoked attack which took place on September 27th, just outside the school's grounds. The brutal meeting was captured by camera of a private enterprise. The footage has been handed to the police since September 30th. The opposition is concerned that a decrease of $37.3 million on the salaries and cost of living allowance for the Water and Sewage Authority. It wants to know if the situation can result in job cuts at WASA. The matter was raised by Member of Parliament for Princestown, Barry Padarath, during the Standing Finance Committee yesterday, Monday. In response, Minister Marvin Gonzalez said it's not a case of under-budgeting. He explained the ministry can return to Parliament and make a request for additional funding should there be a need to do so in the mid-year review. Government reveals when the proposed TNT Revenue Authority is finally set up, it will not be used to collect property tax. Finance Minister Colm Imber explained the tax is supposed to be collected by local government bodies and allocated for various functions those bodies carry out. Imber made the disclosure during deliberations at the Standing Finance Committee yesterday, Monday. He was at the time responding to a concern raised by opposition Member of Parliament for Couva South, Rudy Indassing, at a $10 million allocation, which he said he wanted an explanation on how it was to be spent in 2025. In response, Minister Imber said the allocation is used for infrastructure and equipment. The opposition UNC is calling on Commissioner of Police Early Harewood Christopher to provide clear guidelines to citizens as how they should react when confronted by members of the TTPS, either real or fake. Member of Parliament for Naparima Rodney Charles says the request comes in the wake of citizens being abducted by real TTPS officers, as was the case in the kidnapping and murder of Satchel Kujanberry, and the fake officer which occurred with the kidnapping of Sivich Ramnarayan last Saturday. MP Charles says under the Police Service Act, Chapter 1501, Section 62 states, anyone found impersonating an officer is liable to a fine of $30,000 or 3 years imprisonment. He suggests uniforms used by private security firms that resemble TTPS uniforms should be immediately banned. Attorney General Reginald Amor SC has been challenged to a debate on government's proposed trial by judge alone bill 2023. The Criminal Bar Association yesterday issued a media release stating it supports the statements of its president Israel Khan SC made on October 10th, 2024 at the Law Association of TNT's inaugural law conference at the Hyatt Regency Khan stated the AG and the Chief Justice were conspiring to abolish all trials by jury. In the release yesterday, the CBA expressed it sees no useful purpose in fighting with windmills by engaging in back and forth media releases with the Attorney General on the topic, and invited Armour to debate the government's proposed trial by judge alone Bill 2023 at a panel discussion comprising 2 persons chosen by the CBA and 2 persons chosen by the Office of the Attorney General. In news of the region, the newly established medical cannabis industry is facing a banking hurdle, with local commercial banks refusing to allow accounts for businesses in the sector. This revealed by Acting Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Medicinal Cannabis Licensing Authority, Shanika Roberts-Odell. She was at the time addressing the start of the 2-day BMCLA organized Cannabis MedCon and Expo at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Center on the outskirts of Barbados capital recently. She said the reluctance of traditional banks to work with cannabis businesses was a major hurdle in the country. And finally, the BBC is reporting Kamala Harris agrees to appear on Fox News this week, her first ever sit-down interview with the conservative news network. Her running mate Tim Walz twice appeared on Fox Sunday during the campaign, with the Democratic ticket ramping up media appearances following criticisms on the matter. Before then, Harris and her presidential opponent Donald Trump will campaign in Pennsylvania, host events on opposite side of the battleground state. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'll have major news coming your way at 7 a.m. Good morning.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
Minutes after the hour, 6 o'clock. Ooh, that's a nice echo. Thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital. Of course, on the show this morning, it's all about the hours. It does it from Dr. Paul Richards with our news brief. We'll hear from Richard Ragoobarsingh. We got Ruben and Shane in the mix. Of course, my name is Steve Khan. 25 degrees on both islands this morning, and pretty much the Met Office is copy and paste yesterday is what you're going to get. They said long, fair conditions would be interrupted by a few isolated light to moderate showers over most areas. There is low to medium chance, 30 to 60%. Some of these showers could become heavy and or thundery from late morning to afternoon. All right, so there you go. Yesterday was a scorcher. It was usual stuff. Traffic-wise, where you think you're going to get it, you will. Freeport to Chase Village is a heavy spot this morning. After that, it's just congestion. All right. Good morning to you, Pablo.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. How art thou?
I am good, giving thanks to be alive.
Yeah, boy. No kidding, eh? You have to do that. You have to do that. Let's use Sunday's hellos this morning. Let me start from the top. Maria Celia, God Celia, out in Valencia. Anthony Tinto out in Canada. And happy today is Wendell Stevens' birthday. All right, so happy birthday to you, Wendell. All the best to you. And of course, Anthony Tinto sent greetings to you as well out in Canada. So happy birthday, Wendell. DJ Ray out in Tampa morning. Oliver Man Warren, Rena Boodoo Jennings, Boy Daisy from Davie, David Wares, and of course, Cheryl Wares. Good morning to you. Gloria Gray, Panton, Wendy Ann James, John Cato, Doreen Pierce, Slick Money Grip, Ewart Rajpal, Carol Guevara, Michael Gradison, Kadeem Khan Jr., Sherwin Kerr, Empress Lal, Ann Noel, Bisnath Prasad, Dorma Bennett from Covington, Georgia. Good morning. Victor, good morning to you. And Ian Lee, Alistair Hart, good morning to you all. And some folks that are sending hellos, and of course, birthday greetings to you, Wendell, GNC Auto Security, a few of them. Vincent out in the UK, Anthony in Toronto, Val. Good morning to you all.
Good morning to all the honeybees in the world. Honeybee has been named the most important living organism on the planet, without whom we would all die.
Yep. Bees.
The system would collapse. Flowers would not be pollinated at the rate they should be. It would not happen. And we would all die. So good morning to all the honeybees.
Morning, honeybees. Yeah, we had a while back. We had a swarm of bees that went by my neighbor and came across to my little mango tree, and I had to call a guy to get them. He got most of them. They had some stragglers. They eventually flew away. But
Good
yeah,
morning and
bees
happy
are very
birthday,
important.
Hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you're relaxing today. Wendell is actually in the country for his birthday. It's very strange.
What we don't know?
That's true. We don't know.
We don't know. You know, Wendell is just
He'd
disappeared.
jump on a plane Monday afternoon. Very, very normal.
Yeah, it's like hopping a maxi.
Yeah, well, it is a maxi with wings. That's basically what it is.
Really hope you have a good day, Wendell. You should join us for 2 minutes and kick back.
Or he could be in the penthouse suite at the Double Palm, closest to him.
You have a penthouse suite there?
So I understand.
I
So he
wouldn't
says.
know.
When you have VIP customers like Wendell Stephen, I mean,
That is true. You get the perks.
you're not going to stay in the ordinary room.
You'll get the perks.
Yeah, so you probably spend the night and had breakfast and other things in bed. Bacon bullshot,
See, no.
a bit of salted fish. I should have downloaded it here anyway. I can still do it. Did you see that SpaceX booster rocket landing?
Wasn't that amazing?
I'm going to do my endeavor to get it on this morning.
So what it is really, I think on the weekend, they of course yesterday NASA launched a rocket that is headed to Jupiter.
Well, actually, no, it's headed to Europa, Jupiter's largest moon.
Yeah, it's heading. It's going to take 5 years to get there. But what we're talking about is SpaceX. Elon Musk is very busy this weekend. He launched the robots, like the movie iRobot. He launched some of that. He launched that. A vehicle carrier as well. He sent
driverless cars. More driverless cars, I should say.
More. But this rocket and its booster took off. And the booster rocket, 7 minutes after, came back to exactly where it landed. And they have these two arms, which they call chopsticks.
Where it took off from.
Yeah, where it took off from. And it came right back down there, and the chopsticks, the arms.
And landed vertically.
Unbelievable. I actually saw a video of it coming back after it was detached from the rocket, broke the sound barrier, sonic boom. And actually, I know how it's done, but still I don't know how it's done.
Well, he explained it, and it makes sense because usually what would happen is that one file. Why is it one file? It's not supposed to be one file.
Yeah, Daniel Knight is absolutely fascinating. I watched it a few times, and I just went, whoa.
Yeah, that didn't work. Let's try it again.
And I think he's coming back out. Next step is a smartphone. That's his next step.
Well, it's ingenious. The way he explained that it works is that normally rockets have the ones they tried in the past have these gigantic legs that it's supposed to land on, but the legs are so huge that they are destroyed by the rocket fumes. So this one, when it takes off from the structure, has no legs. So the engines in the rocket and the booster provide a low center of gravity, which means that it hangs low generally, and all it has to do is come back and clip on to the the structure that where it took off from.
They call that chopsticks. They call it a chopstick.
So it made it. I mean, it's really ingenious when you think about it. And of course, he is somebody who is pouring his billions into these kinds of projects.
Yeah, he had a busy.
I appreciate because I mean, at the end of the day, he moving mankind forward. You mightn't like him. He's kind of crazy, and a massive Trump supporter.
Yeah.
But again, that's his prerogative to support who he wants. So
yeah.
But he is, I think it's genius level bright. That's what I think. And he's making these amazing breakthroughs.
Yeah.
I say another. Is it China or is who sent the rocket to Europa? Is it the US? I think
NASA.
It's
NASA.
So that's the US, right? And one of the other countries recently also sent a space-bound rocket. Did you know there are over 10,000 satellites flying around the globe?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
10,000. It's amazing. So this thing of them, a picture of how many satellites are around the world is astounding, actually.
Well, when his next endeavor would be a smartphone, it will be connected to Starlink. And it will
take all the information from you and you wouldn't know.
Yeah. And the phone will be charged by sunlight. So
he didn't get it done. He's that kind of guy.
Oh yeah.
He has the teams and the technology in place too.
Yeah. I understand the Starlink in Trinidad works very well.
Really? I don't know.
It works very well. So
they had a kind of rough start.
Yeah, but they're going good. Yeah, I watched that rocket and I'm just going, it's absolutely.
He's clearly a visionary, Musk. So you can't blame him for trying to move humanity forward. I give him that.
Yeah.
He's putting his money where his mouth is all the time.
Pretty much. And did you watch the crew on the ground that when the rocket came back down, they're all so young.
Yeah.
They're all so young. Wow. Yeah,
almost got it.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. He's clearly a visionary, and what he's doing is going to move humankind forward tremendously. It's these robots that he designed, and the robots peeling apple and
pouring drinks and
they're doing it,
dancing, and just like iRobot.
Yeah.
Just like iRobot.
When the Matrix come and take over everything and put humanity in the backbone, and we'll see how it goes. You have to run and hide from robot hunting, and the robots come and exterminate humans and all sorts of things. But again, they said the same thing about cell phones. So yeah, so people always afraid of technology. All right, here it is. How fast that was, Steve?
Yeah, that was very cool.
So this is the Starlink rocket coming back down to this.
Yeah, watch the sonic boom after the clouds.
My God.
After the clouds, you'll see that sonic boom.
Sonic boom time.
Yeah, I just said that.
Guys. It looks so
Here we
small.
go. Boof. And then in the same speed, after going through sonic boom, it's going to start to blow up. You know, and now the rockets will kick in to slow it down. Oh, I should have said
it's so cylindrical. So to get this thing to come back down to Earth and land vertically and in the exact, you know, how difficult that is in terms of navigation and math.
Yeah.
And hovering until they bring it into the
and it's just going back there and
I have a closer shot coming up next.
Yeah.
That is some science stuff here.
Can you imagine the maths to put that together? Oh, jeez.
Yep, it is quite This is it up close.
This is it close up.
Coming to see. That is literally not. I'm a Ragoobarsingh. Good morning. This is years ago.
What's that?
I know your civilization went past this sort of stuff years ago, centuries ago, but it's exciting for us, these things.
Yeah, well, children do that as an experiment by us. But it's nice to see you all progressing.
Happy retirement, old man. Happy retirement, old man. You retired early?
Yeah, early retirement is always wonderful.
Okay, yeah.
But you know, in 2020, what did I just press there? But in no, something just came across my screen. But you know, in 2024, does anybody really retire anymore?
No, well, you retire from the formal 8 to 4, but you could do what you want.
People I think people move on to do what they like or love.
Yeah, you do to what you want and on your terms.
Yeah.
And on your terms. I know the feeling. You don't fight up with 8 to 4 anymore. I can't do 8 to 4.
Yeah.
I'd rather do 11 to 11 in the night than do 8 to 4.
Yeah.
I ain't doing 8 to 4. That's okay. Anyway, so Elon Musk, and congrats, Rich, on your
thank you.
Your long years of dedicated service to legal aid. I think it's really admirable. You got a pen and a golden watch?
You didn't get a Rolex? I didn't get a pen, I must admit.
But you got a golden watch.
A golden watch.
Yeah. They give you a golden watch and a plaque. A plaque to pick up dust everywhere in your house that you have dust every 6 months.
No, I didn't get a plaque. I got a painting.
Very good. Well, I think you deserve every minute of it. You could go do more plays and productions now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Opposition United National Congress, and we made this call yesterday. We asked this question yesterday of what are citizens to do when confronted by persons wearing uniforms seemingly from the police service.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's no sign of any life yet from this young man, Shiva Ramnarine, was abducted on Saturday, which is really tragic. A 33-year-old businessman who was doing pretty well from all accounts. And and they're asking, what should the citizens do? The TTPS has been silent. I don't know if somebody because when we played the video yesterday, and I can play it again because I still have it, walks into a bar and instructs you to
right. So look at it. A police car, a police SUV with blue lights in front.
Well, it's an SUV with blue lights. We don't use a police SUV.
Well, yeah, because people can connect those and leave it to them. There are so many vehicles with these lights. Huh?
Yeah, it's an SUV with blue lights, which people associate with police. These are looking like legitimate police.
Those are looking.
They have a police logo on the front and they have police emblazoned all across the back, including hats and everything. Now, Steve, you were right. Yesterday, you and Wendell said they're moving like police. They're walking too casually to be police.
They're walking too casually.
Nonetheless, them people with guns coming, like the poor young man is stealing out.
And check the one in the back there.
Are you supposed to say, no, I'm not going with you? When we asked Minister in the Ministry of National Security, Keith Scotland, yesterday, he says, call the police station. Then when you call the police station,
yeah,
they look like they're going to tell you, okay, no problem, go ahead, call, we'll wait.
No. I had someone that I know came into the Pet Butler. He's a police officer. And just this morning, a buddy of mine who is also a police officer, I met him here when I came. He came a bit early. And he's telling me, they both are telling me that anybody can get that black polo. There are people out there that will print the police logo, print the big police on their back, embroidered. There are people that are doing that.
I'm sure.
Is it not hard to get a toll?
We don't even know if some corrupt officer give them the uniform from inside the station. We don't know that.
Yeah, he said that too.
You could go on Amazon and buy blue lights.
Yeah. But they both also said that they didn't operate like police officers the way they walked in.
They're not moving like legitimate. They're moving too casual.
Poor fella, not the wiser.
At that point, you're supposed to say, wait, just now hold on, let me call the Chicago police station and make sure he's real police. They take your gun, but you head until you go in the car.
Yeah.
That is such a frightening thing. A frightening thing to be happening. And remember, this happens a week after Sachel Kujanberry was kidnapped and murdered by real police. Well,
after a ransom
the
was
police
paid.
know who have now been charged with his murder and misbehavior in public office. So, I mean, I would imagine that would have warranted some sort of, well, the police had a press conference, commendations to them, but they never addressed what people should do if persons come and hold you.
And the police have not addressed this kidnapping as well. Huh? I don't know if they mentioned it yesterday.
I don't know. I just don't know what are citizens to do. What are you to do at that point?
But did they confirm whether that vehicle, because you're seeing the license plate number, whether it's a police vehicle or not?
No word yet.
We don't know. They didn't say anything.
No statement.
This is the TTPS. It's another angle. It's a good thing this chap recorded this.
Particularly scary.
It's extremely scary. Who are you to trust? Somebody is banging in the door. Police.
This is the one that really
gets inside. The man is sitting on by himself on his phone in a bar. A lot of us do that. Richard especially.
No, you're in a bar, sit down.
Chilling.
And you see 5, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 people dressed in attire that seems to be legitimate police with guns, including rifles and hand pistols. And they tell you, please come with us. Are you going to say, no, wait, let me call the Chicago police station to make sure you're real police? Is that the response? What are you supposed to do? Can I see your ID, please?
The TTPS has not said anything. Okay, you'll say the investigation going on, but you're not assuring the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago what to do.
It's just not good enough.
And let me bring up another case here. There's this, I can't remember where it is now. Anyway, this chap owns a jewelry store and pawn shop in the US this weekend. And some fellas came, he and his wife are home, and some fellas came, say ghastly. They're wearing the fluorescent vest, they're wearing fake ID, they'll have a clipboard with something. He did not let them in. They came back the next morning, and somebody let them in.
They
kill the guy.
Rifle-like weapons. Look this one holding the weapon, almost in a menacing fashion. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So you see the man point. What you gonna do?
So let me come back to my story with it.
You going to say no, I agree with all you?
No, but hold on. I get into my point in this story. So they killed the owner. They duct taped the wife. They stayed there 20 minutes ransacking. You're figuring they probably have valuables. They found the guy hundreds of miles away in Louisiana and arrested him. Hundreds of miles, Here. Anyway, let me go there.
And then I got this video this morning.
I don't know. Yeah, it's time to migrate.
I mean, look at this.
What is that? No, I didn't see this. Okay.
Violent town.
What the heck?
Holy shit!
Isn't that crazy?
He got away though, did he?
He seemed to have gotten away.
Seems that way. I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen that video.
He seems to have not been. I didn't see him for long on the ground, and
Yeah, I didn't see him.
Oh, Father.
Is this Trinidad though?
Well, the person who sent it to me seems to think it's Trinidad. Anyway, shall we open the phones? Good morning.
You're not taking license plate to the front.
Yeah, but you see, anybody can go get a license plate.
You're still not taking license plate to the front.
Yeah.
Which is usually a kind of
an indication as to whether the jurisdiction.
Yeah, but which is a kind of glaring thing too, because you're stopped by police.
DPP Roger Gaspard is instructed. I think he's been charged. Nirad Sankar has been charged with murder of his wife, Laura Sankar, 34 years old. Sadly, another woman hacked to death. A phone rang. Apparently, it was a message from the carrier, not even nobody. The carrier sent a message. He, who was intoxicated, thought she was talking to a man and shot her to death. I mean, in front of a 16-year-old son. I mean, oh my God.
Anyway, we have some calls here. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning,
gentlemen.
Good morning.
The video you just showed there, Paul, it happened in Enterprise, and the guy had 4 more videos. One was actually him in the ambulance going to get medical treatment, I guess. So yes, he did survive.
I wonder if that's the video I saw with a guy chatting with blood all over him.
Yes, that is it.
Oh, that is it? Okay.
Yeah, that is it.
Yeah, we can't play that, but yeah.
He did survive so far, because he said he got some headshots and whatnot. So he so clearly his ancestors were with him. But that the police.
Anil Ramlal is what David Weirs is telling me from Enterprise.
Yeah, the police should never answer that question, because they have no way they could answer that and not compromise themselves. So that's a question that they would never answer, right? The question that needs to be asked, though, is these guns that resemble police weapons, these uniforms that resemble police uniform, I suspect that there must be some police who are behind these things that are giving them these things. It is left to be proven, but we need to be. And Steve, you said something that don't make sense. You just said you want to we're ready to migrate.
Yeah.
But you just gave a story of the same thing happening in the
No, I gave the story, not of the crime, but capturing the individual that did it hundreds of miles away, all within one weekend.
I understand that, but the crime is
no, but the crime is going to be everywhere.
Right.
Crime is everywhere, but it is not as rampant as here when the TTPS can't even come out and put out a press conference where our detection rate is so low.
Correct. I understand.
It is so low. Do we have to keep walking on the road and watching our back? Do we have, like in Panker Street in St. James this weekend, a fellow on his phone walking, somebody grabs his phone? Do people come out in front of their yard and have a little line thinking, well, we safe, nobody going to jump the wall?
Yeah, well,
but Lincoln, in terms of looking at the video, I know you have a security background. Do you, in your opinion, do you feel they moved like police officers, or you felt they did not?
Oh no, they're jumpy and ridiculous. They nowhere that is those men police officers. No way, right? But we need to. I understand the concern, and the concern is real. But there's nothing you could do when 4 men in police uniform come. If the fella didn't even budge, he just continue on the phone and walk out with them willingly, because he's not expecting. He do nothing wrong. The police were going for questioning. That is what was probably going on in his mind. There was no sense of concern in his mind whatsoever. He was on the phone texting away, normal, walking with them, going wherever he wants. Not doing his kidnapping, he ain't kidnapping.
I don't know that he wasn't worried. I don't think he thought he had a choice.
And he didn't have a choice.
I don't know that hearing, because he's a businessman, he would have certainly heard that Sachin Cushenberry was taken by 2 people,
kidnapped by police,
and ended up dead before he was held. So I don't know that he wasn't worried. I don't think he thought he had a choice.
All right. Thanks,
Pal. You know what he's supposed to do in that situation, because, well, it's people who look like police.
Yeah, exactly. We have another call. Good morning. Good morning. Okie dokie. Good morning, caller.
Morning. Everybody good this morning.
Good morning,
We
Mr.
go in.
But
Morning,
Richard Ragoobarsingh. Mr. Well done, Stevens. Happy birthday, sir. Wherever you are, I don't know where it is, but happy birthday and may God richly bless you today. This matter
Yes,
of police car or anything. Right now, they're clueless, yes, boy. They might not answer to anybody. They're clueless. Because anybody could get a black car, anybody could get a blue light. Anybody could get uniform.
Yeah.
So then I don't know. What tell me when people come by me, police, and I ain't sure to call the police station? And the police here. That makes sense. Well, have a blessed day. Yes?
Same to you.
Thanks, buddy.
happy birthday, Wendell. I need to call you. I'll call you after the show.
No, he's kind of busy. I can't call him right now.
Did you not hear after the show?
No,
You
yeah,
not
but
say
I
he
still
say
can't
after
call
the
him. You wouldn't get through to him anytime before lunch. Good
Did you
morning.
Did you not hear him say after the show?
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
Paul,
Right.
and good morning, Richard.
Good morning.
Well, I want to say, well, before I go on, let me tell Wendell happy birthday if you're listening wherever you are. You grasshopper, you. Enjoy it wherever you are. Have a blessed day. And Paul, you're teasing Richard. And Richard agreed with you about early retirement.
Well, he always talking about who old and who old and who old, but he
Well,
retired.
that's
He
what,
reached retirement age.
that's what I'm coming to. That's
Oh,
what
you know
I'm
who old?
like to talk about old people.
But there is something called early retirement.
You remember I correct you that it's
You're old. Nothing wrong with that. Give thanks. You're blessed.
But Paul come now and trying to soften it up and say, well, you know him.
Zina, by now you know when I'm being sarcastic. I think I perfected the art of sarcasm. You know that I was being sarcastic.
Well, of course. And Richard was
And you don't know to be soft.
Don't give me that, eh? You're old. You reach the age of retirement.
60. 59.999.
There's something called early retirement. You're
Yeah,
not
59.999. That's early retirement.
and age 55, right?
I know that, Richard. I took early retirement too. Very early.
Zina.
Yes.
Richard's so old. They named the boardroom in legally after him now. The Richard Ragoobarsingh Conference Center. He's so old. He did so long.
Me and that now, I ain't letting dear slip fall out with me over she husband. I go. Let me leave the police talk for all and others. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
All right. Thank
I
you.
see the Guardian newspaper on the front page this morning. Like you see for the papers. Political temperature heats up. Clear the air Rowley. Analysts calling PM to state clearly if he's staying or going. Oh, yeah, wait for that. Wait, Dorothy, wait.
Good morning.
Wait, Dorothy, wait.
Oh, God.
Hey, Rob here. I have a situation for you all. Tell me if you all think this would happen. The police uniform fiasco and what's going on with people wearing the uniform and impersonating police officers. They would only get serious when a group of policemen decide to walk into the parliament chambers and start to abduct people from the parliament and representing themselves as officers. Sound familiar? Thank you very much. Let me think about that one.
Very drastic. God forbid.
I don't know. But you know, the TDPS needs to come out and say, listen, citizens. Blah, 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 blah. Don't hold a badge alone. Silver or gold.
The most important thing out of that incident where that guy has been kidnapped is the level of urgency that the TTPS gives this crime. And the level of urgency in capturing every one of those fellas and holding them accountable. That's what makes a mark. That's how kidnapping was reduced in previous years. There was a unit that was very active and it was under SORT back then, that was very active and concentrated resources in managing the problem and got it down because people were caught, people were held, people were arrested, and people were convicted. And that's what you have to do. You have to be able to capture those people. It can't. So telling us a process about what to do in the case of police officers if they come by you and if they come to arrest you or detain you and you don't, if it's really police officers, you could say whatever you want. The issue has to be that citizens shouldn't have to face that problem, and in terms of the criminal element, feeling confident enough that they could get away with it.
Well, in addition to that, Richard, and I agree with what you said, the situation with the tragic situation with Sachin Kujanberry, who was for whose abduction, kidnapping, and murder 2 officers have now been charged. We haven't heard about the 3rd person who was involved there because the car reportedly had 3 people, not so?
Yes.
We haven't heard anything about that 3rd, and I heard about a 4th person. We haven't heard anything about them because the car didn't only have 2 people that took that business, that car dealer, and killed him. Allegedly killed him. Well, they charged now with murder. But now, if they are in without bail, this is a whole different kidnapping ring.
Yeah.
That's what's also disturbing about it.
Either that or it's a huge ring and they only capture some
of them.
Yeah, true. We have a call. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. I have to call back again. Richard said something there just now. It should have been a government minister bracelet that was 2 gold bracelets. Then you'd get the police to act real fast and capture the people quickly. And they catch the fellas in like an hour.
Sarcasm very well this morning.
Yeah, boy. You having sarcasm coffee.
It, Paul. I'm learning from you guys. I practiced it.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know. But this is very disturbing.
It is. It is extremely disturbing.
It is.
My understanding is there's still no sign of life. A $3 million ransom has been demanded, and we had a spate of kidnapping. It's about 10 years ago or more. That was managed to almost 0 for a number of years, which was very commendable.
Yes, and it seems to be ramping back up, which is an indictment on the TTPS.
Well, when we spoke to Minister Scotland yesterday, he said he's not seeing any trend, which was flabbergasting to me. 2 trends I identified. 1, people in police uniforms, in real and fake, committing kidnappings. And 2, more kidnappings happening than would have happened a year ago.
Yeah.
That is not a trend? And that's the kind of, trying to be delicate here, knee-jerk obfuscation and denial that kind of irates the population. It's a trend. Or I guess 2 is not a trend. When it reaches 5 is a trend. Maybe.
I don't know.
You know, they have to come back down to the ground and realize what people are saying on the ground. What people are seeing. How people are feeling.
I do know that business people, and the Shigwanas Chamber has already commented, could feel any level of safety right now. Because if you're a businessman and you get up this morning and you kiss your children goodbye and you're going to open your business place, you don't know what's going to happen before the day then.
So true.
And you work hard and you open your business and you're running your business, and now you seem to quite clearly be a target.
Good morning, caller.
Gentlemen, good morning.
Morning.
Despite actual bona fide police officers committing or criminal activity, does anybody know what is the penalty for impersonating a member of the protective services?
30,000 or 3 years in jail.
$30,000 and 3 years in jail.
Yeah.
I think with the help of the opposition, we need to come to terms with the fact that impersonating a member of the protective services is a non-bailable offense. Despite the inability of the police service to apprehend certain criminals, we have to start there by making it a non-bailable offense and simply by the stroke of a pen, increasing the penalties for such an offense. It may or may not arrest the situation, pun intended, but we must have to start there, simply by the stroke of a pen, into amending those penalties.
I fully agree with you. Fully
Yeah.
agree.
And the time
Maybe
has
shall be a
come.
poll.
Yeah. And the time has come, despite the absence of a state of emergency, we have to have checkpoints across Trinidad and Tobago 24 hours a day. People not going to like it in terms of the traffic situation, but more has to be done in terms of passing. Instead of a static police car with the lights flashing on the highway or something like that, we have to, and it must be done, that you're going to have checkpoints, not necessarily for traffic infractions, but simply for the police to observe the occupants of these vehicles, because all of these offenses are being committed by vehicles, and it seems that the people have free reign to move from one point of Trinidad and Tobago.
And look at it, the alleged police vehicle the guy went to, heavily tinted. But you put out a checkpoint caller. A WhatsApp is going to come out and say within 10 seconds, checkpoint by maritime. They avoid
But
it.
we still have to have them, and the police service. Do you come out on Juve morning around 2 o'clock in the morning?
That question really is directed to Richard.
All right. So what it is happening, they have these various checkpoints, Lady Young Road, on the highway and so on, and they're checking participants, and they find guns and stuff. Mostly they find knives and weapons and so on. So that needs, with the help of the defense force, that needs to be increased. You're going to get lucky sometime, you may not get lucky sometime, but we have reached the stage, especially at night, where this thing has to take place. You have to make it really difficult for these fellas to move about.
That's fundamentally not dealing with the problem of the issue of false police officers. There have been false checkpoints already in this country by people purporting to be police officers who are not police officers.
So as I said, to start with the pen, to raise those penalties and make sure and capture at least a couple of these fellas who do this illegally. It is make it a non-bailable offense, and have something in the court system where that you can have a fast track, that you caught, you're charged, and within a day or two, you're before a magistrate, and you end up in the caboose.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Rich, anybody? Papers? Quickly? Kind of behind time.
Yeah, I do have papers.
Lovely. Shoot.
Yeah. So I'll start off with the Daily Express today. And of course, today is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024, better known as the Wendell Stevens Day, the International Day in celebration of Wendell Stevens. So that's what it is, just in case you didn't know. The front page, Imber to report on MPs within 3 months, OPM to be audited. That's the headline that the Newsday went with. The main picture, and let me read the caption of the picture. Menacing Ravan, Yashpal Mahez portrays mythological demon king Ravan during Ramleela celebrations on Sunday night at Pier Road in Charlieville. That's the main picture. And don't bother with a trial, I'm guilty. That's a subheadline on the front page of the Newsday. And the back page, pressure is on Brits, not West Indies. Dietz confident the squad seeks World Cup semi-spot. chase West Indies target number 1 T20 ranking. That's the front and the back of the Newsday. Moving on to the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian this morning. Front page of the Guardian. Political temperature heats up. Clear the air Rowley, and with an exclamation mark. Analysts call on Prime Minister to state clearly if he is staying or going. Stewart's salacious off-mic comments go viral. Cunupia residents fearful after kidnapping at bar. And a visiting chief from Suriname makes his offerings during a smoke ceremony at the Amerindian Heritage Festival Day of Recognition at the Hyarima statue site in Arima yesterday. All of that is on the front page of The Guardian. On the back page, Wendy's focus on positive result. That's the main headline on the back page. Moving on to the Daily Express this morning. Front page, Lara's turn. Government allocates $15 million more to help at-risk youth under former star cricketer Heroes Foundation. So Lara's turn. That's the main headline they went with. Killing of Laura. DPP orders relative charged with murder. And judge alone trials versus juries. Can calls for debate with AG. I suppose this is after the media release issued by the Attorney General condemning Senior Counsel Israel Khan's comments.
Yeah.
The comments he would have made concerning judge alone trials. So Khan calls for debate with AG. The main picture is that of Ramleela celebrations. And on the back page of the Daily Express, bracing for 500 criminologists, alarm bells over murder toll. A grim statistic, says security expert. All of that, of course, is the news wraparound. And the terms of sports, must win for West Indies women, but Coach Dietz maintains the pressure is on England. So that's it for our front and back pages this morning.
All right.
All three dailies in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, let's get the results of our morning poll where we asked you yesterday, should Minister Stuart Young apologize for his comments caught by a hot mic in Parliament? Well, the votes are in. 55% says no.
I know that story did already, right?
Yeah. All right, let's get into this morning's poll.
All right, so I have two suggested polls. I think most people choose the second one. One is based on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Should the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, say definitively if he's staying or retiring from active politics? Or two, should the penalty for impersonating a police officer be increased and made a non-bailable offense?
I like that one.
What do you choose?
Yeah, let's go to the second one. That's my vote.
I don't know. I'm conflicted about both. I mean, I need one.
All right, so the poll is up. The question is up for you to vote at 222-8255. Toll-free North Americans, 866-525-1099. WhatsApp at 318-1021. Facebook and, of course, YouTube. Should the penalty for impersonating a police officer be increased and made a non-bailable offense? That is our poll. Should the penalty for impersonating a police officer be increased and made a non-bailable offense? Call us now. Message us now. Oh, what did I do? Okay, let's go back here. All right. Let's see. Oh boy. Richard P. Knights says yes. AJ says hell yes. No bail. CJ out in New York. Good morning, CJ. Yes. Empress Lal. Yes. DL. Yes. Let's see. Strong. Yes. Captain Run. A big yes. Let's see. Eddie out in Staten Island, New York says yes and happy birthday to Wendell. Okay, deal. Tony Stark, Iron Man, say way overdue. And that is that Duncan. Okay, no. Hi, Benji says yes. Von Drayton says yes. Julia S. Batiste, yes. Gregory Bauer, yes. Boswell John, yes. Thomas Diaz, yes. Anthony Tinto in Canada says yes. What says you, caller?
Good morning, gentlemen. Yes.
Thank you. John Cato, yes. Sherwin Kerr, yes. Thank you, CJ. Let's see. Ooh, okay. Garvin in New York City. Morning, Garvin. Yes. Somebody else says yes to the poll. DJ Ray says yes. Anthony from Toronto, yes. Cascade St. Anne says yes. Emmanuel in Fort Lauderdale says yes. Vincent in the UK says yes. Dre out in Rio Claro says yes. Roger Seawing, hell yes. Lorna, morning Lorna, Indy, Kali, yes. Lenny James says yes. Okay, gotta go up here now. CJ. CPT Singh says hell no. Michael Robinson says yes. Carol Guevara says yes. Beauty Culture says yes. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Tony Grandi. Yes.
Thank you. Wayne Joseph from Ontario, Canada says yes. Slick Money Grip, yes, 100%. Lester Craigwell says yes to the poll. Anthony Miguel from New York says yes. Paulette from Brooklyn, morning Paulette, says yes. Up North says yes. Every time I say that, I think of a Zuka. Junior says yes. Okay. Michael Gradison says yes, yes, yes. All right. Should the penalty for impersonating a police officer be increased and made a non-bailable offense? Yes or no? All right.
So 222-8255, North Americans 866-525-1099. People on the streaming platforms, send your message via the messaging portal there with your vote. And of course, if you're watching us on Emily TV and listening to us on smart devices, you can WhatsApp us at 868-318-1021.
Tone Luke says yes. Cheryl Henry says hell yes. AJ, it's just yes or no, AJ. All right. Let's see. Somebody else says yes, Steve. Thank you so much. All right. David Ware says yes, yes. All right. Should the penalty for impersonating a police officer be increased and made a non-bailable offense? All right. Good morning, caller. Oops, it is. All right, missed that one. Wayne Wolf says yes, no bail. No bail. Let's go back up here. Oliver Man Warren says yes. Thank you, Ollie. All right. We just have a 1 minute to vote. Should the penalty for impersonating a police officer be increased and made a non-bailable offense? Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning. Arima says yes.
Arima says yes. Thank you, buddy. Take care. Mo Gain says hell yes. With strokes too. They still do that. All right. Let's see. New Hampshire says yes. Thank you, New Hampshire. All right. Of course, AV is going to come in short. Should the penalty for impersonating a police officer be increased and made a non-bailable offense? Ben J. Singh, yes. All righty. Thank you so much. Of course, our question will stay up on our mobile app and website. Bobby, my good friend, my paladino of mine, says yes. Thank you, Bob. Let's see. Sexy San Fernando says yes to the poll. Right. Okay. All right. So AV is in. So let us get into our 7 o'clock major news on this Wendell's Day, International Wendell's Day, the 15th day of October.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
The DPP instructs a man to be charged in the chopping death of his wife. 15-year-old student attacked by schoolmate with brass knuckles. The UNC calls on police commissioner to provide guidance to the public on how to deal with members of the TTPS, real or fake, and concern from the opposition about possible job cuts at WASA, but the government assures no need for fear. Details in a moment. This is News 2, 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sintelbab. Good morning. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Roger Gaspard, has instructed that Narad Sankar be charged with the murder of his wife, Laura Sankar. The husband and wife reportedly got into an argument after the deceased got a message on her mobile phone from the carrier, and he accused her of chatting with someone. Narad, who was said to be intoxicated at the time, chopped his wife to death. 34-year-old Sankar, a mother of two, was chopped to death at the family home near Princestown on Saturday night. A 15-year-old student of Faisamad Secondary School is having medical treatment after he was repeatedly punched by a schoolmate who wore a brass knuckle, covered his face with a mask, and wore gloves. His mother is now seeking legal redress and a transfer. As she said, 3 weeks after this incident, the bully is still at school while her son is missing classes, and neither the police nor the Ministry of Education has acted in their interests. Instead of going to school on Monday, the Form 3 student spent the day at the Point Fortin Hospital having treatment and a CT scan to unveil what injuries he may have suffered in the unprovoked attack, which took place on September 27th, just outside the school grounds. The brutal beating was captured by the camera of a private enterprise. The footage has been in the hands of the police since September 30th. It shows the mask-wearing attacker running up behind his potential victim, pouncing on him and raining blows on part of his neck and head. He was later taken by ambulance to the Point Fortin Hospital, where he was further treated and had an x-ray done and given a neck brace. Almost 3 weeks later, his mother said he is still in excruciating pain and has not been in school since. She is afraid there may be long-term consequences. The opposition UNC is calling on the Commissioner of Police, Earl Hayward Christopher, to provide clear guidance to citizens as to how they should react when confronted with members of the TTPS, either real or fake. Member of Naparima, Rodney Charles, says this request comes in the wake of citizens being abducted by TTPS officers, as was the case in the alleged kidnapping of Sachal Kunj Bihari, and by fake officers, as occurred with Suvish Ramnarayan last Saturday. MP Charles says the Police Service Act, Chapter 1501, Section 62, states that anyone found impersonating a police officer is liable to a fine of $30,000 or 3 years imprisonment. He suggests uniforms used by private security firms that resemble TTPS uniforms be immediately banned. The opposition is concerned with the decrease of $37.3 million in the salaries and cost of living allowance for the Water and Sewerage Authority. It wants to know if this situation can result in job cuts at WASA. The matter was raised by a member of Parliament for Princestown, Barry Padarath, during the Standing Finance Committee on Monday.
So, Minister, under this line item 01, are you then giving the assurance that there will be no layoffs in WASA up to the mid-year review?
This has nothing to do with laying off employees.
But then how do you pay them if it's not reflected on the books here?
Well, we always have the option of coming back to Parliament at the appropriate
time. So therefore it is a
need.
Classic case of under-budgeting.
However, in response, the Minister of Public Utilities, Marvin Gonzalez, said it is not a case of under-budgeting. He explained the ministry can return to Parliament and make a request for additional funding should there be a need to do so in the mid-year review. The committee was told the funding available will be sufficient.
So just to allay the fears of the member, if there is a need for additional supplementation, as we have done in 2024, we will return to the Parliament and we will go through the regular parliamentary process and do what is appropriate.
Attorney General Reginald Amo has been challenged to a debate on the government's proposed trial by judge alone bill 2023. The Criminal Bar Association yesterday issued a media release stating that it supports the statements of its president, Israel Khan, made on October 10, 2024 at the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago's inaugural law conference at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Khan stated that the Attorney General and the Chief Justice were conspiring to abolish all trials by jury. In its release yesterday, the CBA expressed that it sees no useful purpose in fighting with windmills by engaging in back-and-forth media releases with the Attorney General on this topic, and invited Amo to debate the government's proposal trial by judge alone bill 2023 at a panel discussion comprising 2 persons chosen by the CBA and 2 persons chosen by the Attorney General. The CBA proposed that the venue of the debate ought to be the Hugh Wooding Law School, fostering an atmosphere of learning through sharing and exchange of views, and suggested holding it in early November 2024, allowing adequate time for the parties to prepare. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. One man has been arrested and a shipping container recovered during an operation in North Trinidad. Between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. on Sunday, officers from the Arima and Freeport Criminal Investigations Departments conducted an intelligence-led exercise. Acting on information, the team proceeded to Bukaru Village, Karipichaima, where they searched an area and discovered a 20 by 8 foot white metal container reported stolen in the Arima district between 9th and 13th October 2024. A 20-year-old man from Bukaru Village, Karipichaima, was arrested in connection with the discovery. Well, finally, here's weather news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, long fair conditions would be interrupted by a few isolated showers in isolated light to moderate showers over most areas. There's a low to medium chance some of these showers could become heavy and or thundery from late morning to afternoon. Nighttime mostly fair, but for some brief light isolated showers. You can expect a temperature high of 34 degrees Celsius at Piarco International Airport and 33 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, the temperature is 26 degrees Celsius at both localities. Recapping your headlines to 7 o'clock, the DPP instructs man to be charged in the chopping death of his wife. 15-year-old student attacked by schoolmate with brass knuckles. The UNC calls on police commissioner to provide guidance to the public on how to deal with members of the TTPS, real or fake, and concern from the opposition about possible job cuts at WASA, but the government assures no need for fear. I'm Afril Sintil-Bab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail at 12 noon and an update coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Avril, for our major news. You could join her again come 8 o'clock for our news brief, and then at noon today alongside Sir Charles for major news. Traffic-wise, yep, no accidents to tell you about, but it's a bit heavy everywhere. All right. Okay, let's see if we have any more votes. Did Benji sing? Mark Jody says no. Right, that's it. WhatsApp. Okay. Right. Okay, so that's it. I can't see any more votes. All right. So let's get the results of our morning poll.
So our poll this morning was, do you think that the penalties should be raised for the issue of wearing a police uniform? So it should be raised. The penalties should be increased. All right. So that was our poll this morning. It's no longer up, but that's basically what it was. We had 56 people voting on the poll this morning. Yeah. And of the 56 people that voted on the poll, 54 of you said yes. You do think that the penalties for wearing a police uniform should be increased. And 2 of you said no. So 54 of you said yes, and 2 of you said no. That's the results of our poll this morning.
Yeah, of course, the question was, should the penalty for impersonating police officers be increased and made a non-bailable offense? I don't know if our guest. Good morning to you, Gary Griffith. How are you?
All right, good morning.
Did you hear the question?
Yes, I did.
In its entirety. All right. What do you think?
You'll be shocked to hear my answer.
No,
I would say no.
And your reason being?
I'll tell you why. So, good morning to everyone.
Morning.
Obviously, you'll want to make sure that there's a heavy deterrent. But what is the reason for it? For someone to wear a police uniform illegally, it is not that he's wearing the police uniform to go in a roadblock to get a girl's phone number, or that he's wearing a police uniform in a girl's shower. You're wearing a police uniform to take part in a very violent crime. So the present charge, I think, is under Section 62. It's $30,000 or 3 years imprisonment. But you're wearing the police uniform to take part in a violent crime, and that is what the focus should be on. So in other words, if you wear a police uniform and you're arrested because you try to kidnap someone, kidnapping should be the non-bailable offense. If you're wearing a police uniform with an illegal firearm to abduct someone or to steal from someone, having access to an illegal firearm is a non-bailable offense. So the wearing of the police uniform is only a byproduct to the bigger picture. So lifting the fine for someone wearing a police uniform is not going to be the deterrent. What should be is the reason for them wearing the uniform. The reason for them wearing the uniform on most occasions is to kidnap someone, to rob someone, to be involved in something in a very serious manner that can infringe the rights of citizens, whether it be kidnapping, rape, armed robbery. Those should be the non-bailable offenses. So that the focus should be on the reason for them wearing.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, so good morning, Gary, and welcome again to Public for Sure.
Morning. And to that topic, what could put an end to it is this. Remember this? There was a reason why I implemented this to all police officers, because we had the concern of police officers, persons impersonating police officers. The badge specially made very difficult, if not impossible, for you to try to imitate. What we told the public is that anytime a police officer comes to you, you need to ask them, let me see your badge, and the badge will have a number, and the number will be linked to your police ID card.
No, I looked at the video where this young man was kidnapped, and I didn't see a badge. I didn't see anything around. I do not have it under their T-shirt.
Yeah,
but I did not see anything. And as you said earlier, when you brought that, when that whole badge issue came out and everybody had to wear it, that it must be visible.
Correct. So Ulla Christopher, who was voted and supported by the UNC and the PNM to be commissioner, she shut that down. This was mandatory. You must wear the badge. And Ulla, in her wisdom, everything that Gary Griffith did, let's shut down. So now you have, thanks to Ulla and Old McDonald, Jacob, they have gone out of their way to make it easier for criminal elements to imitate police officers, just because Gary Griffith implemented the badge. The badge was an avenue to prevent this or minimize.
Well, I did not know it was shut down.
Yeah, it was. That's why it's not mandatory anymore. That's why police officers are not wearing it. It was mandatory that you must have
some wearing it.
Yeah, because they like it, not because they need to. We put it as a standing order. You had to wear it. And it meant that if you confront any citizen, they ask, let me see your badge. Similar to what you will see in North America. And the badge must also go with your ID card to have the number. The other aspect pertaining to that, when up to now, the police have not been able to confirm or deny that those were police officers. Reason being is that we had GPS tracking on every police vehicle. Had that continued, similar to the operational command center, the commissioner's command center, and the GPS tracking, the police within 5 minutes could have stated to the public there was no police vehicle at that location at that time, because the GPS tracking will show that there was no police vehicle there. That was removed, so they don't know who's police and who's thief, because they can't pinpoint where the police vehicles are stationed. So you don't know if it was a police vehicle or if it was someone who just got a blue light, purchased it illegally, and utilized it. Had the GPS tracking to monitor every police vehicle remained, the police would have been able in 5 minutes to tell the country that was not a police vehicle.
But in your opinion, in terms of looking at that video, Gary, do you think that those fellas moved like police officers, or it's hard to determine?
Well, it could be hard to determine. I mean, obviously, their tactical movements and stuff showed up more like gangsters or bouncers rather than trained police officers. But not every police officer is highly trained in the art of armed conflict counter-revolutionary warfare, knowing how to operate, how to hold a weapon, how to move. So they could very well be police officers who have been on suspension for several years. We have 300 of them for the last 10, some of them for 10 years, getting $10,000 a month, costing the taxpayers $50 million per annum. So you can have officers who may have been in administrative work and they never held a firearm for years. So they would not know, some of them have never gone in a range. So it's hard to, it's not just to appreciate the fact that every police officer is highly trained to understand how to hold a weapon, how to move in a situation for armed conflict. As it is, obviously there was very improper training, but it doesn't mean it does not make them a police officer.
Yeah, but how does the TTPS, navigate this problem? Now, in my opinion, this should be one of the number one things that they're working on at this point that ramped up in terms of priority, because it involves the dependability, the image of the TTPS, people's respect for the safety of a police officer coming to them. It undermines all of that. So in my opinion, it should be priority number one in terms of catching those guys, in terms of reinstilling that sense of confidence, which has been depleted over the years. What's your take in terms of that? Would you agree that that should be a priority in terms of this particular kidnapping, or you don't see it that way?
No, definitely. I mean, when I became commissioner, with public trust and confidence being 14% at the time, 1-4, and the person, and he was rewarded, he got a national award for having 14% public trust by the president. The reason for that is because of just that. There were very few rogue elements in the police service, and the commissioner did not see it fit to put systems in place to pinpoint, weed out, and of those rogue elements. And by doing that, one or two bad apples just affected the whole image of the police service. So what is required is to put systems to make them accountable and to measure their performance, so that if at any time you have these few rogue officers, you can pinpoint them, target them, and remove them. Or if people are trying to imitate them, ensure that you could separate police from thief, which goes back to the reason up to now, Earl Christopher and Old MacDonald Jacob can never state why you remove this. Why? Because Gary Griffith implemented it. How petty can you be? This here played a big part towards preventing. So if it is you knew, every citizen knew that unless you have this, I know you're not a police officer. That those individuals come to that person's doorstep. He has his burglar proof. Where's your badge? I'm not seeing your badge. I'm not letting you in. But you see people coming with some polo jerseys marked police. You don't know. And all of these things could have assisted. I'm not saying it would have prevented. But if it is that you know you're a civilian and persons come to your door, they say they are police and they don't have this around them. And then you're saying, I want you to show this badge with this number equivalent to your police ID card. Failure to do that, I'm not letting you in my home. You now have grounds to do so. These are the things that prevented the rogue elements from trying to imitate police officers. And then, as I said, with the GPS tracking on the police vehicles, it ensured that persons could not imitate police officers. So these are the things that can easily be reignited, but because of petty politics, because of senior police officers being intimidated by me being there in the past, they've shut down the badge, removed it. There's also the change of the police uniform. When it is that we realize the police uniform being utilized is similar to what an amalgamated security guard has. You could buy that in Pennywise. It's like an old washout jacket and pants, a dark blue, that anybody could buy. And then you say you're a police officer, you put on a balaclava. We changed the police uniform similar to the NYPD, so you look like a police officer. You can't get wear a old pants and a sweater and then say you're a police officer. So all of these things can easily cause the problem. It will minimize the possibility of persons imitating police officers.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I think the badge issue makes them more professional as a unit, more customer friendly and interactive.
Yeah.
But in circumstances like in that bar, citizens are likely to go. Remember, police officers can be intimidating, and if police officers come in a group with big weapons and say, "Excuse me, we need you to come with us," the likelihood is that citizens are going to go. You don't feel that you have the capacity to say, "Well, show me your badge. I'm not going with you unless you show me a badge." The average citizen is just going to comply, and go along with it because of the circumstance of a group of police officers wearing police. You're going to think it's legit.
Well, you're correct, right? Yes or no? But because I'm speaking about the point that the reason why they're wearing the uniform is to allow you to foolishly just walk with them because you perceive them to be police officers. If you don't think that they are police officers, it can't very, because my point is you're in your home, it's burglar proof. And if they turn up there in front of you, you're not going to open the door to let them in. So it gives you now it gives you something now to prevent them from kidnapping you or apprehending you. If it is that you just walk inside here and you're in public with them and they grab you, well, there's nothing that could be done. So there would be possibilities. I do not know in this specific circumstance, but if you're behind your closed door, you're in your gate, and you have dogs, you have burglar proof, and these officers refuse to show this. These officers refuse to show their ID card. It can't cause, I want to see your ID, I want to see your badge. These were standard operational procedure to prevent police persons imitating police officers. And if those rogue officers actually were police officers, it allows the citizen now, I know your badge number, I know your number, I'm coming for you and liaising with the PC as soon as you leave. Because we had situations where police officers will abuse citizens and the citizens will go past and they wouldn't even know the name of the police officer because the police will at times say, I don't have to give you that. And there's nothing that could be done. This being put around you ensure that you will see the number and you can't escape. Those are the things that would have been provided that caused public trust and confidence to move from 14 to 59%. It's a reason that 3 years later it's moved from 59% to 8%. When you remove the badge, you refuse to implement the uniform that was acquired, you remove the GPS tracking on the vehicles, you remove the online reporting and the police app that will allow citizens to report rogue police officers. All of these things add up and it will cause the public now to lose confidence. And it's just because of a number of rogue elements in the police service. These were the same 7,000 police officers that the public had the highest public trust and confidence in any arm of the public service just a few years ago.
Well, there seems to be a ramping up of kidnapping. At least it seems that way. I remember years ago there was a problem with kidnapping, and I think under SORT, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it went down to virtually zero. And now there seems to be a ramp back up and disturbing need for citizens in terms of the last kidnapping / murder. It was police officers that were arrested concerning this issue. Now you have like a week or 2 weeks later, you have another kidnapping of a businessman and with people in police uniform. How do we navigate this? Because it's a serious problem. It's seriously concerning the citizens on the ground. Because now you're not so sure. If you're not sure if a police officer is really a police officer, you have a problem. You have a huge problem. How do you deal with something like this? And do you consider it a trend or not? Because earlier in the conversation that we were having when Paul was there, Paul had indicated that the minister, Keith Scotland, Senior Counsel, had said he doesn't see any trend. And of course, for some citizens, they're seeing a trend, and the trend is that kidnapping is on the rise. How do you look at it? Do you see it as a trend? And if you had to give advice to the TPS, what would you tell them?
Well, again, this started like 2005 to 2008 even when it formed SAUTT, the Special Anti-Crime Unit of Trinidad and Tobago. And it was the worst we ever had with kidnappings. What the police were doing at the time is their job was to act as the negotiator. They kidnap the person. Okay, well, all right, let's wait for the ransom. The person demands, the kidnappers demand the ransom. They negotiate, pay the ransom, and hope that the victim is freed. That is not how we deal with policing. That was poor policing, and that person also got a national award for that as acting commissioner of police. What is required is what we did in 2019 and 2021. It wasn't Gary Griffith, it was a team. And that started, strange enough, and because this interview is not political, this is me dealing with law enforcement. Stuart Young at the time was the Minister of National Security. He played a very big part to assist me in dealing with putting an end to kidnapping, because he was the line minister and he provided the support that I needed to get the support from the FBI, the DEA. The type of technology that is out there is what put an end to kidnapping. That is just one part, I should say. There are a number of other things that we did. The Special Operation Response Team, the intelligence unit assigned to the Special Operation Response Team, the online reporting, the police app, the 482 Gary. There's no such thing as the perfect crime. So we provided avenues for citizens to come forward and pass on information without fear of reprisal to say, listen, there's this very strange, these individuals who have just come next door. We don't know them and they seem to be wearing police uniform. Bam, we got that, it gave us leads. We then also, again, with Minister Young, myself, we worked as a team with the SSA, with the same Roger Best. And through Roger Best, through myself, working 72 hours a day, 72 hours constantly for 3 or 4 days, like the Natalie Polonave kidnapping, for example. What you will see in the SVU TV series, there'll be a wall. We'll start pinpointing numbers. We'll pinpoint locations. We'll pinpoint targets, persons of interest, links, reason for it. And then start linking until we come to the possible perpetrator. That is how we were able to pinpoint persons of interest. And it wasn't by accident that over 15 different kidnappings, we were able to immediately arrest the kidnapper and rescue the victim. Now you're hearing police rescue the victim. The victim escaping is not a rescue. The victim's family paying the ransom is not a rescue. Rescue is when it is we were kicking down doors, intercepting vehicles, opening the trunks, finding rescuing the victim, arresting the kidnapper. We did that on 12 to 15 occasions from Natalie Polonave up. There was a reason for that, as I said, because of the special anti-crime unit. We had to form a unit separate and apart from the police, because on several occasions, certain police officers were part of the kidnapping. So when they were inside, knowing what we were doing and tipping off the kidnappers, hey, Gary, Gary's closing early, you need to move. So you must have a separate unit. The anti-kidnapping squad was a very highly trained unit, unfortunately, based on bad policing. Senior persons who were trained and qualified in anti-kidnapping, they transferred them to other locations, similar to the gender-based violence unit now. You recall in 2021, we had put a virtual end to domestic violence. The persons were properly trained through Mayor Rudy Giuliani's unit and NYPD. And now most of them have been from Clare Guy Island and others. They've now moved out of the gender-based violence unit, and persons in the GBVU now, police officers, are not properly trained. The same thing is happening now with the anti-kidnapping squad. So you need a special unit separate and apart, an intelligence unit separate and apart, and the technology that is out there. So it was not by accident that there were 12 to 15 kidnappings under my watch, and every single one we were to pinpoint the kidnapper, arrest them, and rescue the victim. That is what put an end to kidnapping.
Let's talk about technology, and I don't know how much you can share without compromising anything, but the issue of masks, isn't there technology that can identify those guys in that police uniform because they were wearing masks? Isn't there technology that can approximate what they look like?
Well, you're just answering the question. There's absolutely not a snowball chance in hell I will state the type of technology that is there. All I could say is the technology there is what allowed us to solve 100% of the kidnappings and rescue the victims. The technology is there. The kidnappers could not understand what it is that I was doing that caused us to be able to pinpoint where they are, what they were doing, who they were, who were their assistants, who were supporting them in the police service. And that is what put an end to kidnapping for ransom, because they realized there's something that the police have that is catching us, so let's find another crime. They then tried with home invasion. We changed that to make sure we had GPS on the police vehicles. Police stayed in the area of responsibility. We had a proper 999. So if you dial 999, within less than 5 minutes, you jump the wall. By the time you jump back over, a few moments later, we'll apprehend you. We put an end to extortion. So there's technology that is there. I can't obviously give the details of technology for obvious reasons, but the technology is what put an end to kidnapping just 3 years ago. Why is it?
But if the technology was there and it still is there, I'm assuming, then
it's just not active.
Well, I can't say it's not active. There should be some resolve to all of this trend or no trend. I don't know, the trend of kidnappings or the high-profile kidnappings that have taken place recently. There should be some sort of inroads being made because the technology exists, as you said.
Richard, if you put a ban and tell police officers you don't have to wear this, just that alone shows the pettiness that we have. We are playing politics with national security. We're playing politics with the lives of citizens. The systems are there. The police badges, the GPS on the vehicles, the special operation response team, the police online reporting, the police app, the technology. All of these things is what puts an end to kidnapping. So, I know sometimes it's unfortunate that people would like me or dislike me based on the politics. So it's for the PNM or UNC till you die. Answer that. Why would you put an end to all of the things that I put in place that put an end to kidnapping? The point being the systems are there. However, it wasn't just the technology, as I said. Stuart Young, myself, Roger Best, we will spend several hours at the National Operations Center trying to see if we could patch everything together, forming a proper system to target the perpetrators. And we were able to do it. It takes a lot of work. You can't be a lazy commissioner of police. You have to micromanage these situations. You have to be on top of it. But as I said, up to now, 4 days later, the police can't even state if they were legitimate police officers involved in the kidnapping. Why? Because initially we had GPS tracking on every police vehicle. Had that remained, it meant that the police could have stated within 10 minutes, we wish to confirm there was no police vehicle at that spot at that time. That was someone imitating police using a vehicle with a blue light that was illegal. They can't say it because they shut down the operation command center, the commissioner's command center, the GPS tracking on the police vehicles. And by doing that, you don't know who's police from thief.
I wanted to get to the point of resources because the 2025 budget was recently read. I don't know if it's completely passed yet, but 59.7 billion. I think national security got the third highest at 6.1 billion, I believe it was. Of course, the highest allocation went to the Ministry of Health, strangely enough, which was 6.7 billion, followed closely by education, 6.5, 6.7, something a little less. And then, of course, national security. As part of the national security framework that the Minister of Finance identified, he identified certain things. He talked about Coast Guard vessels that will be acquired by 2027, I think it was. Yes. And also 2,000 vehicles, new vehicles for the police service. What's your take on that? Because, of course, you have political aspirations. So you must be looking at budgets and budget statements. And also from a security perspective, do you think those measures in terms of those 2,000 additional vehicles, the issue of the Coast Guard vessels, do you think good or bad in terms of the resource allocation to the security services? And an additional question I'm tagging on, the Prime Minister, I know CARICOM, had been big on public health, that crime be viewed through the lens of being a public health issue. I don't know if the increased allocation of the Ministry of Health to being 6.7 plus billion and being the number one allocation includes some funding that is kind of channeling, kind of an intersect between the Ministry of National Security with regard to that public health issue. What's your take on all of that?
Well, health, education, and national security for the last few decades have always been the top three ministries with funding. As it pertains to the Ministry of National Security, half of that, or just a little over half of that, is salaries. So when people say, oh my God, he's spending $6 billion per annum on national security, we're getting nothing for it. You have the salaries, so that's the first part. As it pertains to the allocation, yet again, the unfortunate thing is when civilians who have absolutely no training, knowledge, or capability in understanding law enforcement, they come up with these things, and without having experts in the field, it'll be waste of taxpayers' money. The extra Coast Guard vessels, it is ludicrous. I mean, when I acquired those 12 Diamond vessels, I acquired it at a cost of $1.2 billion less than the 3 OPVs, and they could have done the exact thing that the OPVs could have done. The OPVs, we were paying 800 million TT for each OPV. When it is as the security advisor, I looked at the cost I was getting the offer from the government of Israel, Colombia, and Korea. We were getting the same OPVs for 400 million TT. So that was basically 1.2 billion TT extra we were going to pay. People don't believe me. When you come off air, type BAE, capital BAE/corruption. You will find 17 countries suing BAE, inclusive of the United Kingdom, for paying kickback to government officials. So as it pertains to the vessels, so we got the number of vessels required, but we never had manpower strength to equate with asset acquisition. So when you have all of the vessels presently in the Coast Guard, if they're all operational now, it will not even, we don't have 20, it can't even 25% could be manned because we don't have manpower strength, but you're purchasing more vessels. It makes no sense. The Coast Guard, they don't need more vessels. What they need is proper maintenance. And I heard the ridiculous talk about the Chinese vessel. That Chinese vessel was acquired by someone who held the highest rank in the history of the Defense Force at that time, Admiral. You are the present commanding or then commanding officer of the Coast Guard who became a chief of defense staff. You had legal and naval experts. You had persons who went to China, looked at the vessel, and we realized that vessel that has been in stables for the last 10 years, not used, They said that the government stating that vessel is ineffective. That vessel sailed from China to Trinidad by our own Coast Guard personnel. That's how good that vessel was. That vessel was going to be assigned to the Chinese Navy. That vessel would have been the first time that we will be able to take batches of 150 in the Coast Guard, send them out to sea for 2 weeks, and get them to be trained as sailors. To be trained as a sailor now, you stay on the Coast Guard jetty in Stowers and swim 5 laps. That's how you become a sailor, because they don't have the vessels to get you out to sea to train. So to say that the vessel was not good enough. If for 10 years you don't maintain it, you don't put systems to have it out at sea, then you will have problems. So you do not need more vessels. What you need is to increase the Coast Guard manpower strength to equate with asset acquisition. Additionally, you need to have the maintenance of the present vessels to be able to utilize it. But we love to purchase vessels because that's where you could get 3 or 4 times markup. Pertaining to the other things that they have implemented, I think it is, again, rather unfortunate. You need to look at the measures of corruption or mismanagement. A simple example is overtime in the police service, where I was able to pinpoint corruption and reduce it by about $100 million per annum. Reducing that allowed me to implement the police marine branch, the rapid response, the emergency response patrol, GPS tracking on vehicles, tasers, pepper spray, body cameras, things never seen before in the police service without asking Minister Imud for a cent. And that is what was supposed to be done. Find ways to minimize wastage and utilize the funds now for what the law enforcement agencies would need. That is not what is being done. And you're just pumping money, and you're putting bad money, you're putting good money into bad, and you're not going to get the increase in the quality of service. Nothing was stated as it pertains to customer service training, public relation, putting systems to measure the performance of police officers, make them accountable, the proper utilization of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. We have 5,000 of them in Tetron and Stobles waiting for another 1990, 34 years later. We don't dare. There are things that they can do right now. So you can utilize them, but I think the budget showed, yet again, politicians coming up with bright ideas with absolutely no proper thought process.
But they have included the Defense Force recently in terms of joint patrols again. I know certainly in the city, I'm not so sure how widespread it is across the country, but certainly in the city of Port of Spain. So they are utilizing them to some measure in terms of that.
Richard, they use 100 out of 5,000, and they call that joint patrols. 100 members of the Defense Force are utilized with the IATF, the Interagency Task Force. And the reason I can know is I was there. When we had 150 hoodlums coming down into Port of Spain to destroy Port of Spain during the COVID period, not one member of the Defense Force came out. And no fault of theirs, they wanted to come out, but the politicians refused. So the Defense Force have never left Tetron or Stobles in 34 years, other than 100 to deal with IATF. We don't need that. These officers, these personnel are trained, they are qualified. So when people speak and say that they're only trained to kill, that is not true. I was the first Trinidad and Tobago citizen to return home with a United Nations peacekeeping medal. And because we are also trained to act as an aid to civil power and to support and complement the police service, we have regimental police. So those things, and again, when it is you look at the problem, we have the Air Guard. 500 persons in the Air Guard for the last several years have been in PRP playing small ball football because they don't have a chicky chunk kite to fly, far less an aircraft or helicopter. So those are the things that you need to put in place, allow them to be able to serve our country.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan of certainly of an air guard and air power in the skies. I know people talk about drones and etc. etc. I think there is nothing that beats the immediate response of a helicopter up in the air, following a vehicle and giving real-time information to resources on the ground. That's my opinion, but I'm not an expert. Let's do it a little bit of politics now, because you're, of course, the political leader of the NTA. The general elections is drawing nearer and nearer in 2025. Parties are starting to indicate who their candidates are for certain seats. Of course, you've already indicated that you're going up for St. Joseph. What's the sense? What is the NTA's strategy in this? Because there seems to be a certain amount of tension between yourself and the current opposition leader, and of course, a little bit. And of course, the PNM doesn't align with anybody. They've always held that position. Is it that the NTA is prepared to go it alone in 2025?
Yeah, it's very strange that question is always asked on the third party, whether it's ONR, NAR, COP, or the NTA. You wouldn't ask the PNM or UNC that same question. It's always, what do we intend to do? It's always, do we intend to go alone or not? I would like for persons to understand.
They have a track record. Yeah? They have a track record.
Exactly. No, I know. I'm agreeing with you. There's a reason for that. The track record has always shown that. But I would like the country to understand that this bridge constituency, we are a political party. We have not been formed to get another party in government. We have not been formed to join another party to help them get in government. We are there because there's that 100 to 150,000. It started, I said, at 81 or 91,000 in 1981 with the ONR. It then went to 127,000 in 1991 with the NAR, of which Kamala Prasad Bisesa was part of. I think she lost her deposit against the UNC in Separio in 1991. So when people criticize the third constituency, especially the UNC, hey, your political leader was in that same third party thing, and I think she lost her deposit. She was in the NAR against the UNC. And that was her right. There's nothing wrong with it. It then went to the COP in 2007 with 147,000 votes. Unfortunately, because of our first past the post rather than proportional representation, that 147,000 may be scattered throughout the country because they were, whether you call us the knife and fork, whether you call us the floating voters, the bridge constituency, call us what you want. The fact is that we may not have the numbers to get 21 seats. But the good thing is what we decide will always dictate the outcome of the election. That is a fact. If those floating voters, there's no third party, most usually turn to the PNM than the UNC, which is why the UNC has never won an election on their own in 34 years in a three-horse race. Never. The only time they've ever won any election on their own was in 2000, and it was not a three-horse race because Basio Pandey embraced that bridge constituency, the Carlos John, the Jerry Yepmings, the Moving Assam, the Ian Gilles, the Kwaitongs, to get that knife and fork bridge constituency persons to say, yeah, there's room for us under Basio Pandey. But there was no third party. As soon as a third party was formed a year later, they got a measly 188 votes in Tunapuna, and it cost the government to move from 1961 to 1818, and they lost government. That is the power of that bridge constituency. So what we do and decide, whether we go alone, whether we form with other parties, that always decides the outcome of an election. Having said that, I saw what happened with the Congress of the People in 2010 to 2015. I have no intention for anything perceived as political domestic violence. It is amazing. It's only in crazy people behavior that you will see something that worked in local government election. You defeat the PNM by 60,000 votes. And then you see that and then decide to just make a U-turn and start to attack the people you work with. That is mad people behavior. But that is their right. If it is that you can't unite your own party, you certainly can't unite a country. If you can't unite other political parties with you, you certainly can't unite a country. It starts from that. Trying to disrespect persons and attack them on a platform every Monday night is definitely not going to lure us. It's definitely not going to cause floating voters to say, yeah, I'm hearing what she's saying, so I'll go and join her. Pardon?
So are you saying that it's an advantage to the PNM in 2025?
Well, usually what we would have seen is a third party, as in 1981, 1991, and 2007, working separate and apart from the UNC or the ULF would cause an increase in the seat allocation for the PNM. It happened in 2007, it became 2615 or 2516 because of that. Seats such as Samoa, Barataria, Shogunas, Pointe-a-Pierre, those seats will be lost because there will be a number of those floating voters in those areas that are really not aligned to the UNC. When it is that there's an alliance, those floating voters will say, look, I am supporting you, whether you're called ONR, NAR, COP, NTA, ABC, or XYZ. You work with another party, I could work with it because I know you are there to represent us. But what they are not going to accept is a political party saying, look, we have 19 seats, we will take all the marginal seats, you go up for the 12 hardest PNM seats, and then we'll get in government. My mother make a fool, I ain't stupid. So if you feel that every day is Good Friday for Gary Griffith and the NTA, it's not going to happen. Have some respect for us. Hiring social media prostitutes to attack us every single day, all you're doing is turning people off more from you because you have somebody now as your pumpek to be attacking the NTA. You feel like that's going to cause people to support you. More people will be turned off. Every time he opens his mouth, I'm not going to call his name, he's not worth it. It causes more people to turn away from any alliance. Until what we are not going to allow is the political domestic violence. You can't be attacking us every single time hiring people to attack us and expect us to come and work with you just before the bell is called. Give us the mutual respect. We can work together, and I can assure you we can have a good government. But we are not going to allow a repeat of what I saw with the Congress of the People from 2010 to 2015. They can take it or leave it.
Well, I know politics always makes strange bedfellows, and sometimes people that you think, oh my God, they will never get together because they are basically enemies now. And then bam, a candle is lit somewhere, and all of a sudden.
Richard, I would like to, sorry for interrupting, but that is such an important point. And this is where I have such a problem with. Because we have a thing about enemies and all of that. I don't see PNM as the enemy. I don't see the UNC as the enemy. I recall when Basil Pandey and Patrick Manning were Prime Minister and opposition leader, they will be in cricket, and you'll see Pandey, Manning, Imbert, Valley, Carlos John, Yet Ming. There was no hatred. There was no animosity. Now we are seeing political leaders deliberately going out of their way to divide their country, to solidify their base. That has to stop. I made a statement recently where I commended Fitzgerald Hines for openly admitting the fact that there's a problem with overtime in the police service. Khadija Amin, I mean, as clueless as she could be, jumps up and says, does this, and sends a message to everybody in the UNC St. Augustine chat. Does this mean that Gary's back in bed with the PNM? So because someone commends somebody, you are so petty and small-minded that you see that as Gary being in bed with the PNM. So your job as a politician is to always attack the other side, discredit the other side. I don't intend to do that. My job getting in government is to unite Trinidad and Tobago. PNM will never be seen as the enemy to me. The PNM is a great party with great people that have done a lot for this country. Yes, they've made many mistakes, as the UNC, as Gary Griffith would have done. No one is perfect. But to demonize political parties, to demonize individuals, every single time you speak is to attack, discredit, and now you hire social media prostitutes to attack people. That is what you see as a good government? I beg to differ. My job is not to demonize and to discredit, whereas others want to destroy. I intend to unite, right? Others want to try to attack. I intend to find positive ways to unite Trinidad and Tobago.
So in terms of 2025, assuming that beds are not made to accompany strange bedfellows, and the NTA goes it alone, or maybe with an alliance with some other smaller parties, is it that you're going to go for the 41 seats, or are you going to concentrate on key seats that you think that if you can win those key seats, because all you need to win is one, basically, to be a broker in terms of the political, that's what Trinidad has become now, because a seat alone can give you a certain amount of power. So is it that you're going to be concentrating on particular seats, or you're going full-fledged for the 41 seats?
Well, what we have seen in that bridge constituency since 1981, that bridge constituency is right across the board in Trinidad and Tobago. You'd have seen it in the Congress of the People. The COP placed second, I think, in 34, 35 of the 41 seats. Every time there was a PNM safe seat, it was the COP, then the UNC. The UNC safe seats would have been UNC, then the COP. Sadly enough, there's no such thing as silver medal in politics in Trinidad and Tobago. But the point being is that I think it will be improper for me as the political leader of that bridge constituency to leave out other constituencies because we may not be able to win it. Because there are so many supporters in that bridge constituency. When the COP got that 147,000, you divide that by 41, you got roughly 3,000 to 4,000 votes in every single seat. And that said a lot. It said so much about that bridge constituency. Basil Pandey did not have the respect to understand the value of that bridge constituency. And because of that, he paid the political price. Kamala Persad-Bissessar understood it in 2010, which is why she embraced Winston Dukaran. My take on it is that Winston Dukaran did not negotiate well. He's an excellent politician, a brilliant statesman, a poor political negotiator. He allowed the UNC to get 21 seats, and with that, UNC said, hey, we are 21, them could rock soon now. And that is what caused the collapse of the People's Partnership. I don't think anyone wants that to happen. So the bigger we expand, the bigger the base will build. So you can't just pinpoint just the marginal seats. So as it is right now, we are looking at candidates throughout the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago. We are also working and communicating with other political parties such as COPE, the Congress of the People, and other parties. Our name is an alliance. If there are other parties with the same principles and ideologies of the NTA, we will communicate with them, inclusive of the UNC, inclusive of all other political parties, and we intend to transform Trinidad and Tobago. So It is not about just pinpointing certain seats. Let me quickly add, it will, however, the marginal seats will always be the critical seats. The marginal seats has always been the bulk of those floating voters, be it St. Joseph, Samoa, Barataria, Tunapuna, Lupino, Bonaire, La Joqueta, Talparo, Sangre Grande, San Fernando West. Those are the seats we will definitely be going up for, because once we go there, people will understand that we would dictate the outcome of the election. Whether you like it or not, I'll say it one more time, the UNC has never won a general election on its own in 34 years in a three-horse race. It never happened under Basio Pandey when he embraced that bridge constituency. It ain't going to happen now. So as much as your battle, Gary Griffith, like me or don't like me, what we do would decide the outcome of the general election.
Well, as we head to closing of this interview, Gary, I want to ask you a question. You know, a lot of times people get very despondent, disillusioned about Trinidad and Tobago for various reasons. Some for them, it's economic opportunity. For some, it's the issue of crime. And of course, there has been certainly an uptick in people migrating out of the country, especially younger families and stuff like that. What do you think are the positive things of Trinidad and Tobago and the things that people, that inspires hope in you personally about Trinidad and Tobago being able to survive the storms that it's currently in?
The people, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. What has destroyed our country is nothing other than politics. I go back to just 20, 25 years ago, we never had this situation now. Politicians have been so strategic, they have gone out of their way to deliberately divide Trinidad and Tobago to the point that even criminals benefit from it. When it is you look at the things that I just spoke about, that puts an end to kidnapping, home invasion, dealing with making sure you have a fast response. A few moments later, pegging back criminals, the highest reduction in violent and serious crime under my watch as a minister and a commissioner. And you will shut it down and remove it because it's Gary Griffith and it'll make him look good. Politicians, of course, the problem. Politicians go out of their way to divide the country, be it geographical location, ethnic composition, religion, political affiliation. It has to stop. But the people themselves, they don't want that. But they're so caught up in the fact that I am not going to vote for this party because I'm afraid of what they will do, because them thief, them corrupt. We have gone out of our way to destroy Trinidad and Tobago. My style of politics has been totally different. I have no intention to go out of my way to demonize any political party or politician. My job is to try to unite Trinidad and Tobago. I almost say make Trinidad and Tobago great again. I'm not going to say that. I say what I could say is that make Trinidad and Tobago safe again. And the best way to do that is to unite Trinidad and Tobago. We, of course, division and, of course, criminal elements to take control of this country. If we work together as a team and understand the value, the PNM put so many good things in place pre-2010 that I cheated. I piggybacked on it because I saw what Patrick Manning was looking at with the OPVs. That's why I got the diamond vessels. When he had the special anti-crime unit, I cheated and I called it, he called it SWOT, I called it SWOT, just a different spelling. When he had the blimp, I acquired drones, as you spoke about, Richard. The drones will turn night into day, lock down our shores, lock onto a vessel. That is how you secure our borders, not by getting massive vessels that will cost us hundreds of millions. Look at what every politician has done and build on it, not destroy and cut, not try to demonize persons. So my take on Trinidad and Tobago, do not give up hope. Believe that we can unite Trinidad and Tobago. Believe that we can win back our country. I have a nation to defend, and I intend to defend this nation. By hook or crook, I intend to find a way to be in a position, yet again, to unite Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago, I promise you, just believe.
Well, thanks, Gary Griffith. Thanks for having us this morning. We appreciate the conversation.
My pleasure.
All the best. How is Nicole doing?
Not too bad at all. She's going pretty well. She still has Richard Ragoobarsingh's hairstyle, but she looks as beautiful as ever, even with that hairstyle.
She does, doesn't she?
Absolutely.
She does. All right. Well, health and strength to her, and of course, tell her she's in our prayers for sure.
And may I just quickly add, and again, that shows that is a character of even one political leader. When a political leader could actually be in conflict with me, but have the maturity to contact me, send his regards himself and Sharon on his prayers. That, you see, things like that, it gives the country a degree of hope to understand that people can be human. They can have a heart. Not all political leaders did the same thing. I leave it there.
All right. Leave it there. Thank you so much, Gary Griffith, for being with us this morning. All the best to you and the family.
Yep.
All right. All right. It is 5 minutes before the hour of 8 o'clock on this International Wendell's Day.
International Wendell Stevens Day.
Yeah, Wendell Stevens Day.
I wanted to say thank you to, of course, to all of the people who came to Cipriani College over the weekend for that extravagant news. I know why I'm saying Wendell Stevens is Wendell Steven. But it's International Wendell Steven Day. Or you could say it's Wendell Stevens Day.
Happy birthday. Come on for your last 5 minutes. Come on for your last 5 minutes, man.
Happy birthday to my forever friend, as he stated. So so I just want to say thank you to all the people who came out to that extravagant news over the weekend at Cipriani College. We had so much fun. And of course, I'll keep you posted where we're going next. I think we should be somewhere next week, Saturday. But I'll confirm with you about tomorrow.
Not this weekend. You're taking a break this weekend?
No, not on this weekend at all. Yeah. But there's another play on this weekend. What exactly is the name? It's at Central Bank Auditorium. It starts on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's directed by Penelope Spencer and Deborah Booker Mason. And I know some of the stars include Natasha Lake, Jaron Raucus, Remy. Who else is in it? I can't remember off the top of my head. But that plays on this weekend at Central Bank Auditorium, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I keep saying Truth or Dare, but that's not the name of it. So let me double check what it is. So is Wendell coming on as it's his birthday, so we can say happy birthday to him?
I don't know. I told him since morning to come on for a 5.
What he said.
I got no response. I don't know if Double Palm have internet.
True Talk, No Lie. That's the name of the play this weekend. True Talk, No Lies on the Central Bank Auditorium this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Of course, it deals with autism too, but it's going to be a fantastic production because Penelope Spencer and Deborah are involved. So you should take that in. That's on this weekend, and tickets are available online at Island E-Tickets and Extra Foods and all K-Squared Fashions outlets in West Mall, East Gates, and Brentwood Mall in Chaponas. And the box office at Central Bank Auditorium opens from tomorrow, Wednesday the 16th. So you can get your tickets for that play. And part proceeds, of course, go to the Autism Society. So you should not miss that. So Wendell, I know we are not allowed to sing Happy Birthday anymore on the show, but I'm going to sing it.
Happy birthday.
Not you, Steve. I am going to sing it, Wendell, and say
Evie will sing with you.
No, she will not.
Say happy birthday to my friend Wendell Steven.
Oh no.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Wendell Steven. To you. Put that in all your pipe and smoke it.
Oh Lord! All right. Thank you, Ricky. We'll talk with you tomorrow morning.
This is where we wrap up the show this morning. Have a fantastic day, whatever you do on this Tuesday morning. Of course, Wednesday, tomorrow will be midweek. Have a fantastic day and remember to smile and laugh. It is great for your health. Speak to you about it tomorrow morning.
All right. Thank you, Richie Rich. All right, folks, keep it locked on. Let's get into our 8 o'clock news brief. AV is in.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is time for your news update to 8 o'clock. I'm Afril Sintel-Bab. Good morning. Former Police Commissioner Gary Griffith has commented on the issue of police involvement in kidnappings. The situation has led Member of Parliament for Naparima, Rodney Charles, to call on the Commissioner of Police, Erla Hayward Christopher, to provide clear guidance to citizens as to how they should react when confronted with members of the TTPS, either real or fake. Speaking on the Power Breakfast show this morning, Griffith said when he was police commissioner, he ensured that all police officers had to wear their badges. He said that members of the public were then able to identify real real officers from fake. Griffith lamented the fact that the present police commissioner scrapped that initiative. He also said that there was GPS tracking on all police vehicles, which would help in tracking police whereabouts, another tool that would have assisted the public in deciphering real police officers, as well as efficiently weeding out rogue members of the TTPS. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Roger Gaspard, has instructed that Narad Sankar be charged with the murder of his wife, Laura Sankar, who was chopped to death. The husband and wife reportedly got into an argument after the deceased got a message on her mobile phone from the carrier, and he accused her of chatting with someone. And a 15-year-old student of Faizabad Secondary School is having medical treatment after he was repeatedly punched by a schoolmate who wore a brass knuckle, covered his face with a mask, and wore gloves. His mother is now seeking legal redress and a transfer. As she said, 3 weeks after the incident, the bully is still at school while her son is missing classes, and neither the police nor the Ministry of Education has acted in their interests. And the opposition United National Congress is calling on the Commissioner of Police, Earl Haywood Christopher, to provide clear guidance to citizens as to how they should react when confronted with members of the TTPS, either real or fake. Member of Parliament for Naparima, Rodney Charles, made the request. Well, that was your update to 8 o'clock. Look out for news in full at 12 noon.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
There is a connection between government policy and law in the sense that all laws start as some type of government policy. So, for example, in Trinidad and Tobago, we would have had the recent national policy on persons with disabilities. And that policy talks in very strong terms about the need to both enact laws to provide for the human rights of persons with disabilities. It also talks about the need to amend laws that we have on our statute books right now that discriminate against persons with disabilities. So once that policy is adopted and approved by the cabinet, then the process of making it a law can begin. The difficulty with the policy remaining as a policy is two things. One, it's not enforceable. So it does not really give you any rights legally because it's just a policy, it's not a law. And the other thing is that policies can change over time. Policies can change over time as the needs of the government or the focus of the government itself changes. It can change if the government itself changes. So that it's not enough for us to say, well, we have a policy. We have to take that further step to make the policy a law, because that is what will give full protection for the human rights of persons with disabilities.
There she is.
Good morning, Dr.
Karen. Dr. Karen, how are you?
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm doing well today.
Well, we need to do better because you have to help this show. You have to do some clinical work with this show this morning.
Well, I'm presuming you're here to talk about that tragic situation regarding Jaden Latran.
Yes, that situation and just the problem of bullying in general.
Mm-hmm. How pervasive is the issue of bullying from your interactions?
Well, I think we could all agree that it is unfortunately a very common phenomenon, and not just in schools. We have bullying taking place at different levels of society. We have bullying taking place in workplaces across the country as well. So unfortunately, this phenomena is very prevalent, very common, and unfortunately, it takes tragic circumstances like what just happened to shine a national spotlight on it. But this is something that many children, teenagers, adults struggle with on a regular basis.
Yeah, as you brought up adults, because when we were discussing bullying yesterday, we brought up the issue that it's so pervasive in the society. It's not just restricted to schools. You see evidence of it in the society in terms of extortion, in terms of so many stories you hear in workplaces, people may be bullied. And so there seems to be, it seems to be very pervasive across all sectors and across the society generally. And how do people navigate it? Because we on the morning show here have all been, and we remember going to, well, of course, when we were in school, and we saying we all experience bullying, all of us. and we somehow got through it. And I mean, how do psychologists navigate people through that? Because there are scars that remain with you.
Yeah. And I'm really glad that you put it in that way, Richard, because sometimes people think, oh, well, that happened to me is no big deal, is a natural part of childhood. Children will be children, etc. And we don't all get through it. Many of us, you just try to survive, but you might still be carrying the trauma and the scars from bullying. And so I think one of the ways that we can help people navigate it is first promoting a wider understanding of what bullying behavior is, because there are many things that are occurring on a regular basis that people wouldn't think is bullying.
Well, I'm glad you said it. What is bullying?
Right. So let's start with that. So what is bullying? So bullying is when there is aggressive behavior that is intended to cause harm, and it happens on a repetitive and ongoing basis. And critically, there's an imbalance of power. So let's break down those bits. So what kind of behaviors can be considered bullying behaviors? It could be physical, so shoving, pushing, hitting, kicking, getting up in people's personal space. It could be verbal, so the insults, the name calling. It could also be cyberbullying now, because we have such a prevalence of social media, so text message and WhatsApp groups on the internet. And it could also be indirect, so it doesn't have to happen face to face, but things like social exclusion. So if we think in the context of children, they're being excluded, nobody wants to play with them, they don't invite them, they don't include them, or rumor spreading, that you say things about people and you share things about them online. All of these can constitute forms of bullying. And the imbalance of power, I think, is a really important concept to understand the difference, because you could have two children who get into a fight and they're peers. So that act of, say, that one act of indiscipline, but because there is an equal power between the two, they're pairs of equal standing, we wouldn't call that bullying. So bullying happens when there's somebody who has more power than somebody else.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because if you look at every situation that we personally experience, or we see in the media, or we hear about or read about, the bully never attacks somebody bigger or stronger. Never.
And there's a reason for that, because they can't assert power over somebody. So oftentimes the victims that they choose are persons who are in a position where they feel they could dominate them. And it could be on the basis of anything, whether it's age, gender, ethnicity, orientation, your stature, if you have a disability. And you see, the thing is, we need to start examining our culture a little bit more, because we have a whole established tradition of pick-on and name calling and nicknames and that sort of thing. And nothing is wrong with that per se, as long as everybody is sharing in the joke. Because if you're making a joke at someone and calling them a name, and everybody else is laughing but not that person, then it's no longer funny.
Exactly.
And it's causing harm.
What's the origin of the behavior? And I know there are several reasons where the bully, him or herself, engages in this behavior. What are the origins of the behavior?
So origins of the bullying behavior can be many. Sometimes bullies have been bullied themselves. We can look at some individual factors. We can look at familial and social factors. So with the familial factors, if we have poor supervision and there's poor discipline, so that children don't understand what that bullying behavior is like, or how to have good, healthy social and emotional skills. But we also have to consider the environment, because many times people think of bullying as a dynamic between the bully and the victim. So what's going on between these two people? But often it exists in a context. So we have to look at that context. So whether it's a school space, or whether it's a workplace, or even the community. So are we indifferent when we see these acts going on? Do we care to be engaged? Do we implicitly encourage that kind of behavior? Because haha is funny. Watch him with his bent foot or his drop eye, or she has a stutter, and we think that those things are funny. And so we encourage bullying behavior, whether we do so directly or indirectly. So there are a whole lot of factors.
I just wanted to sorry to interrupt you,
No.
and Dr. Khan, but the issue of because we brought up this issue yesterday that you have a marginalized community and minority in terms of the LGBTQ community, which is a minority group in the school system naturally, but subject to bullying, and bullying that sometimes may or may not be encouraged by teachers who don't, because they think it's all right to call a boy, you know, a hen or a faggot, you know, or, you know, things like that, or a girl correspondingly other derogatory names because they are different. And that's a cultural thing, because it's almost like that's accepted in terms of the society. It's almost like the society turns a blind eye to certain communities and that the bullying that happens towards them. How do you navigate that in a school system? How do you navigate that in a culture that almost seems to encourage it?
Well, that's the thing. We have a big barrier in society when at the national level, we're not prepared to discuss certain topics in schools. So that we're not prepared to talk about gender diversity and orientation in schools for all of the different reasons that people come up with, none of which I think are justifiable. Because what is happening is exactly what you said, is creating an environment where an already vulnerable community is now being further subject to bullying and abuse and discrimination, and not because of who they are, but because of a system that is it's encouraging it. Because not only do we have adults in the system who think that might be okay, you also have the other adults who are indifferent. So they don't really care. That's not my problem. That's between you. So I'm not here to do that. I'm here to do X, Y, and Z. So I'm not going to get involved. And I think we have to start to recognize that spaces like schools have an ethical right until we strengthen the laws to make sure that they have a legal right as well. Yeah. So right now, I think they probably only have an ethical right to protect and safeguard all students.
Well, is that correct? Because in a school scenario, my understanding is that a teacher or a school administrator may be legally responsible for the safety of that child in that compound. And if that includes mental or psychological well-being or emotional well-being, to me, that still stands.
Well, maybe the system needs to be tested to see if the laws that we have in place really can protect children in that space, because then there'd have to be a whole framework to support that. There'd have to be the policies and regulations that they are found to be in breach of. And if there are too many loopholes and gaps in those policies and regulations, then we wouldn't see it through to fruition.
But to Richard's point, isn't it also that one of the issues that we're facing in schools and the wider societies is in terms of protection of minority groups is the individual's personal feelings on the issue, because they will protect a different kind of scenario. They will protection a different kind of scenario.
Yes, and just to address that point, I know Wendell wants to come in to say that in settings like that as well, you have a professional responsibility. So in many of our professions, we cannot let personal biases affect the way that we do our jobs. And certainly teaching is one of them. Being a psychologist, that's another job. Being a doctor, any kind of service provision, even if you're in customer service, you cannot let your personal biases affect your job, especially when your bias is going to cause harm and discrimination. And so that's why, again, we have to start looking at the culture, the organizational culture or national culture, in addition to having policies and rules and laws to protect people.
Do you believe, Dr. Khan, that, and you would know this from your observations, that children who are privileged, more privileged than others, in other words, they are at home, they get what they want, they get to travel, they get to wear jewelry, they get extra money for their allowances. Do you think they are more prone to be bullies?
Well, I'm not sure that how much. So if I go statistically with you, I'm not sure how much that factor. So whether how much privilege will explain bullying behavior. I think that there are a range of other factors because you could have children from any strata, socioeconomic strata, middle class, upper middle class, higher up than that, and not all of them are going to be bullies. So it also depends on other things that are going on. So as I said, discipline, supervision, our opinion about, what do they have good, healthy socio-emotional skills. So I think, we don't want to paint a broad brush because I think bullies can come from any background, but certainly when we do see cases and there are certain factors involved, we have to address them.
Yeah, because why I'm asking that question, I mean, back in my day, we didn't have these kind of privileges, but you see videos sometimes of children being brats, for want of a better word, and parents are unable to control them. You understand? So you think that a child like that, certainly if that child is doing that with a parent, could you imagine what that child might be doing with a peer in school? So that was the basis of my question.
Yeah, I don't think all privileged kids are bullies, but I think some can be if there's poor supervision, the sense of entitlement, a sense that I am better than others and I look down on others. But again, there are those other factors. So then we have to look at the parenting, the socialization, the discipline, because in a school, so that might occur, more, but in a school setting where we're supposed to have other measures in place. So where you're supposed to have a whole structure in place so that all children are treated similarly. What are the measures that are being put in place there to you can't mitigate everything, you can't police everything, but what are we putting in place to ensure that the school is an even playground?
Yeah. Dr. Khan, how much are we underestimating the cues children are taking from the wider society, particularly in the age of social media, where long ago, 20 years ago, you could turn off the TV. Now, every 12, 14-year-old has a phone. All sorts of content are coming toward them. They're seeing how leaders in society are behaving, artists, music artists, entertainers are behaving, and taking their cues from the wider society.
Oh, we are very much underestimating this. I think it's not just an underestimation. I think we don't appreciate it enough and are aware of it enough, of the many sources of influence on children and also at their developmental stage, how susceptible and vulnerable they are to being influenced. So now we look at some of the theories in psychology. So for example, the social learning theory, which tells us that children will model behavior that they see, especially if it's people that they admire. So if it's or respect, so if it's their parents or some influencer that they're looking at or some artist, they are more likely to model that behavior. And so, but we always have to have, you might have all of this music there, but it affects some children in some ways and some teens in some ways and not. So it truly is the constellation of factors. But to that point, Paul, what I would say specifically is I think we do need more examples of pro-social behavior, of healthy behavior, of behavior that is not unkind and cruel, because what we have now in social media are the things that grab your attention.
The like culture.
The rage bait things. So the things that stir up an intense reaction, the things that are entertaining and shocking. And those things are not the things that might be, the pro-social behavior. And so we're seeing that now, even in terms of how things are reported in the media. We want shocking headlines to grab people's attention because we're trying to get our share of the market. And what impact is that having on a society and a people when there's all this rage bait or there's all this things to stir up a reaction, but we don't see anything about resolution and coping and the good stuff.
Yeah. So is it that the school curriculum needs to be adjusted to include, now I don't know what the school curriculum is like in primary school at this point, or secondary school. I'm assuming it's absent to deal with the rebalancing of those messages that you could get from social media, or contextualizing it for students, that if you see X, Y, and Z on social media, you have to be able to discern what exactly you're talking about there. What is rage bait? What is this? What is that? And also the basic issue of human decency, empathy, and kindness. And classes that are structured, a class that is structured around those basic intangibles that we all as human beings should have in the social contract we have with each other as we navigate life on this planet. And is that something that should be in primary schools and secondary schools as part of the learning process? Because I'm not too sure how much it is there now. This basic thing of getting up if you're on a bus and there's a pregnant woman standing up next to you, that you should give up your seat to an older person. I don't know how much young people know about those basic forms of etiquette anymore.
Well, you know, Richard, there are two strands, and Paul will be familiar with this. We talk about a curriculum, and then we talk about a hidden curriculum in schools. And I think both are equally and critically important. So yes, where we can build these things into a curriculum, it's very important. And I know they do have some aspects of life skills in the various curricula across the schools. But unless that is reinforced and enhanced by other aspects in the hidden curriculum, then we're just doing a piecemeal approach. So this has to be a whole school approach at all levels. So when we talk about the hidden curriculum, what we're talking about are the things that are not explicitly taught, but children learn things from it. So the culture and the environment of the school. So, for example, you gave the example of the pregnant woman on the bus. But what about if you're at school and you see a teacher carrying a lot of books? So do you offer to, Miss, do you need some help? Or do you open the door? Or if a child is walking and something falls, do you pick it up for them? So what are these, what are the values, what are the behaviors that are being encouraged and reinforced in the environment? So they're not just hearing about it in a lesson, but they're seeing it being acted out. They're seeing it being reinforced. We encourage it. And also this framework can't just be, we teach something and that's it. Standalone policies don't work. They're not sustainable. They're not effective. It has to be buttressed by a whole framework. So let me give you a specific example. You know, we hear about zero tolerance policies and it sounds like it's a good thing, you know, zero tolerance. But that in and of itself is not going to fix it, because if we also accompanying that, we don't have interventions to have appropriate discipline, okay? Not just punishment, but appropriate discipline and behavior management. And if we don't have interventions to teach the socio-emotional skills. So for example, bullying doesn't just start. You don't start by, as I said, it's repetitive, but often it builds up. And there are many behaviors that are gateway behaviors. And this week I've been talking about it with my students at the UE, and we were talking about things like, you know, you're in a class and a child is saying something and then other people roll in their eyes and snicker in and hee on the side. Those behaviors are mean behaviors. They're unkind, they're inappropriate. And unless we start to regulate some of those, it escalates.
Dr. Khan,
yes.
You know, you just brought back a very vivid memory for me. When you spoke about those children who would be like teachers' pets, the teacher would always ask them to help with whatever, or stand in front of the class to make sure that the class keeps quiet when the teacher leaves. I was that type of student. And I think, you just brought back a memory that I think that it was also part the reason why I was bullied as a child. You understand? Because I was always the helpful child. I was always the quiet, reserved child. You understand? Not playing in the yard with everybody else and whatnot. And so that meant, what you said just now just came back full circle to me.
Dr. Khan, one of the issues we face in Trinidad and Tobago, when people say, because I'm seeing several people in the chat accurately saying, well, the family is a really powerful, as you know, socializing agent. Your mother, your father, your home circle. And very often people make the presumption, erroneously so, that all families are the same and all families have the same moral code and all parents raise their children the same way, which is far from the truth. So it goes to Richard's point. How does the education system act as the equalizer, so to speak, because the children come from so many different backgrounds that one cannot assume that all parents are teaching their children the same thing. There are parents who will actually tell your child, don't be soft. If you watch your hand, cuff him. You understand? Or don't take on that teacher, right? And the teacher has to deal with all of these different backgrounds and try to have some sort of universal approach to imparting morals and values in these children.
Well, and some children are bullied from home, Paul.
And if some of them are bullied from home and model that behavior.
You go to you have that too. You have bullying taking place sometimes by parents. You enter the school system lacking in confidence already.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's why I think the schools need to have consistency and fairness and equity. So just as how we have a practice of having children wear uniforms. And one of the reasons is that uniforms are unequalized. Everybody's coming with the same thing. So similarly, the interactions at school have to be consistent. So what are the values that we endorse? So if we respect everyone, then we respect all the children and all their comments and questions and statements, so that in the classroom we're not snickering or laughing at somebody if they get something wrong, or if they say something that people think is a stupid question or comment, or if they have something different about them. So I think it's really important that we start to teach children about respect and these values that are going to promote the pro-social behaviors that we want to see. So when you see them excluding a child, and oftentimes you might not see it necessarily in the classroom, but you watch them at recess or you watch them lunchtime on the corridors and you'll pick up on it. Yeah. So therefore, what do? Do we say, well, that's children and it's recess, like our police, everything? No, we have to act. So what do? We don't buff up the children and say, well, you have to include Richard in your football game at recess. That's not going to promote the pro-social behavior, because then you're just, dictating, and we don't learn. Human beings don't learn in that way. So then we have to find ways to teach them about why that's unkind and how would you feel if you were excluded. So whether you role play, you talk it through with them. And you said earlier that children pick up things very, very young ages, even before they could speak. Toddlers, little children can sense things in the environment and react accordingly. So let's not underestimate children's ability to understand things and understand that at that age, they can appreciate what it feels like to be excluded. We can teach them empathy. We can teach them how to be more inclusive. We can teach them to stand up for others. That's the other thing we want to have in schools, that if you see someone being bullied, that you are brave enough and you do feel strongly about it, that you could speak up and say, hey, Steve, leave Paul alone. That's not fair.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It happens all the time.
Dr. Khan, as you're talking there, it occurred to me, do we all as human beings, because it's easy for us to have this conversation and exclude ourselves from it. Do we all as human beings have to be vigilant about the fact that sometimes we can be bullies and have a blind spot to the fact that we are in the position of a bully in terms of how we deal with other people?
Oh, yes. That's self-awareness and insight. It's such a critical tool. Not everybody is prepared to do that kind of work, because not everybody is prepared to confront that about themselves. Why? Why am I? You might think, well, I'm blunt and I call it as it is, and you want to see that as a virtue. But really, and in fact, what it is that you're mean. And why are you being mean? Why are you being so cruel and unkind? Is it something that happened in your past that has shaped? Is it some past trauma of your own that you have not fully processed? And so now you visit it onto other people and you're unapologetic about it? And think about that. It's even worse when there's that imbalance of power. So you are in a position of power and you are the one who is being blunt, unkind, cruel, and mean. the impact that has on your victim is going to be significant.
So can it also be some sort of defense mechanism in that person who may have gone through trauma before?
Oh, yes. So defense mechanisms that comes from the psychoanalytic orientation. So, and what it is an attempt to resolve that anxiety, and the anxiety may be from past trauma. And there are healthy defense mechanisms and there are unhealthy ones. And so we need to think about whether this strategy I'm using is one of the unhealthy ones.
You're making Freud very happy this morning. I know we have 5 minutes left. I want to kind of just segue the conversation a bit because I think it's along the same lane that we're talking about here, imbalances of power and what we're seeing manifest. Just yesterday, again, a woman and a child murdered by a male relative, and the levels of domestic violence. And again, that comes from power imbalances. Let's talk about that a bit in relation to the overall discussion.
Oh, I don't know that 4 minutes will do that. But yes, if we just touch on it, because it was very shocking. And I think as a nation, we're getting so beleaguered and traumatized by all these incidences of different kinds of violence, whether it's bullying or domestic violence. And coincidentally, I'm the current interim president of the Coalition Against Domestic Violence. So, of course, this topic is something that we recognize as a huge problem in society. And again, trying to ascertain the causes for such violence and what policies interventions that we need to put in place to kind of disrupt this epidemic of violence we see in our country. It's so incredibly tragic that we have persons who cannot regulate, whether it's their own distress, discomfort, their feelings. So it's a breakup, it's a divorce. How do we deal with conflict? How do we deal with trauma without having to resort to these kinds of aggressive acts that are so tragic? So as a country, again, Paul, I want to say that it exists on all levels. So when we encourage beating children, because that's the only way to discipline them, and they learn that aggression is an acceptable way to resolve issues, then what do we expect when they get older? There is no magic switch that takes place to teach them other ways to manage behaviors. When we teach people that rejection, social rejection is it's tied to your identity. So as a man, you can't leave me. I have the power in this relationship. You're leaving me. You're threatening that power. And I have to take back that power in a very violent and aggressive way. So as I said, it's a huge topic, one that we need to have many more conversations. So we need to keep it on the front burner because we can't afford to. Too many lives are being lost and destroyed to domestic violence.
I had a question. I know we don't have much time, but how much do you feel some sort of religious lack of, well, back in our day, we went to Sunday school and all these things. How do you feel, how much do you feel that is contributing to what is happening in some of our schools? Children not having that kind of early spiritual grounding.
The religion is the biggest bully of them all.
Oh Lord, you hush. You hush. I was hoping he didn't come back on, Dr. Khan.
It's a double-edged sword, Wendell. For some people, religion can be very helpful and a helpful tool. But if we see religion as a proxy for instilling values, you can have values instilled through other aspects in society. Yeah. And as he was saying, I'm sorry, I do have to agree with him a little bit, that there is a negative side to it as well in terms of the perpetuation of values. Yeah, so it is a double-edged sword. And I think for persons and families for which religion can be protective, then it is a good strategy, but it doesn't work for everyone. And the thing that we want from it, the values, that can come through other ways.
Yeah. I hope we can have you back really soon.
Yeah,
I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you for having me. It's been very
conversation. Thank you so much. Have a
just have this peaceful voice and
that's it. The voice is so peaceful.
Yeah, that you can't.
That is more maybe journalistic or police jargon, but it boils down to the same thing.
Right. Well, I guess we could also poll you on our question this morning. I'm sure you would have heard the viral or seen the viral video of Minister Stuart Young being recorded by a hot mic in Parliament. And we had asked this morning, should he apologize? Because I know people had gone down the road of him resigning. But we asked, should he apologize for the comments made with the hot mic in Parliament?
I must say, gentlemen, I'm not aware of the hot mic issue. What is that?
He was heard, but we don't want to repeat it, but he was heard throwing some picong the way of the opposition when they were leaving Parliament now. And Minister Imbird was heard warning him that, boy, careful the mic on. You haven't seen that yet?
I haven't seen it. I don't know what was said, but I know that in Parliament, there is all the debates are heated. Picong is thrown across the floor back and forth. So I don't know what was said. I guess it's a cautionary tale for me.
Okay. Well, it certainly is.
7:17. Good morning, Minister Scott.
We don't have much time, so let's get straight to the meat.
There's another report, sadly. First of all, your thoughts on the two officers being charged last week for murder and misbehavior in public office.
I followed that very closely. Because it's a matter before the courts, I would be very circumspect with my thoughts. But what I can say, if you analyze it, one, it is very unfortunate. We understand the concept that they are innocent until proven guilty, so I make no pronouncement in that regard. What I can say, however, gentlemen, and you may have to, you may actually be forced to agree with me, that the response of the police service was robust, timely, and incisive. Within a week, persons were brought before the courts, and that is a step in the right direction. And I am willing at this stage to debate if anyone can say different in this instance.
Yeah, I think you're right. I can't contend that. I think because of the issues related to police public trust and confidence, the expedited nature of that investigation and the subsequent proffering of charges upon the advice of the DPP was commendable, because that is what is needed in terms of the public seeing a weeding out of corrupt elements in the police service in an efficient and expeditious and transparent manner. So yes. Well, allegedly corrupt elements. Let me put it that way, before the court.
I think that you have agreed with me. What it does is that it shows the public that there is an urgency in the police service, and that it is not everything that we can prevent the police. Not everything that they can prevent, but they certainly can respond more robustly, more quickly, more timeously. And in this case, they did, and that is an encouraging sign.
Unfortunately, again, as of Saturday into Sunday, we've played video this morning of men dressed in police uniforms, or uniforms that seem close to police uniforms. I see two newspapers have described it as fake cops this morning, kidnapping someone who is still unaccounted for. How concerned are you about this trend now?
Well, I'm very concerned about the development. I'm not sure that I want to give it the nomenclature of a trend, but I'm very concerned about the development. I can't tell you too much about the response. Suffice it to say that the AKS is very much onto the situation, and I really do hope at the end of the day that the kidnapped gentleman is returned to his family. And I want to tell the perpetrators that the police are doing their work and the AKS is working, and hopefully very soon you all will see results in that regard. I can't go into too much details, gentlemen. You would appreciate that, but I assure you that they are working night and day up to very close to midnight last night. We were in contact with the police with respect to this matter, and they're working on it.
Well, Minister, shouldn't we also, as a consequence, and we are happy to hear that the AKS, they're working diligently to bring about positive results. But shouldn't we also hear from the TTPS concerning this alarming development in terms of alerting citizens? What are the signs we need to look for? Because surely 6 men dressed in what appears to be police garb coming at you in a car that has blue lights on its dashboard. How should citizens respond to that? Shouldn't the TTPS at least tell us?
Well, that was, and let me say this, it's a case-by-case basis. I will not be one to tell the police how they should do their work. I suspect that they may very well have a sensitization exercise. I am not.
I believe that without legislation in Trinidad and Tobago, pretty much nothing gets done. And when it comes to people with disabilities, legislation will assist by way of education and especially employment.
Legislation sets the tone for how we treat each other as a society. It provides those boundaries and the expectations, and it also upholds the rights of all of the citizens.
Legislation is important for everyone in society as it sets rules and regulations that create an organized, safe and fair environment in which everyone is equal.
They form the opinion that because you have a disability, that you are somehow unintelligent, stupid, ridiculously asinine, you name it. So legislation is quite important, and I hope that legislation is soon coming so that people with disabilities can be who they are. People first, disabilities after.
That is more maybe journalistic or police jargon, but it boils down to the same thing.
Right. Well, I guess we could also poll you on our question this morning. I'm sure you would have heard the viral or seen the viral video of Minister Stuart Young being recorded by a hot mic in Parliament. And we had asked this morning, should he apologize? Because I know people had gone down the road of him resigning. But we asked, should he apologize for the comments made with the hot mic in Parliament?
I must say, gentlemen, I'm not aware of the hot mic issue. What is that?
He was heard, but we don't want to repeat it. but he was heard throwing some pecan the way of the opposition when they were leaving Parliament now. And Minister Imbird was heard warning him that, boy, careful the mic on. You haven't seen that yet?
I haven't seen it. I don't know what was said, but I know that in Parliament, there is all the debates are heated. Peacock is thrown across the floor back and forth. So I don't know what was said. I guess it's a cautionary tale for me.
Okay. Well, it certainly is.
7:17. Good morning, Minister Scott.
We don't have much time, so let's get straight to the meat.
There's another report, sadly. First of all, your thoughts on the 2 officers being charged last week for murder and misbehavior in public office.
I followed that very closely. Because it's a matter before the courts, I would be very circumspect with my thoughts. But what I can say, if you analyze it, one, it is very unfortunate. We understand the concept that they are innocent until proven guilty, so I make no pronouncement in that regard. What I can say, however, gentlemen, and you may have to, well, you may actually be forced to agree with me, that the response of the police service was robust, timely, and incisive. Within a week, persons were brought before the courts, and that is a step in the right direction. And I am willing at this stage to debate if anyone can say different in this instance.
Yeah, I think you're right. I can't contend that. I think because of the issues related to police public trust and confidence, the expedited nature of that investigation and the subsequent proffering of charges upon the advice of the DPP was commendable, because that is what is needed in terms of the public seeing a weeding out of corrupt elements in the police service in an efficient and expeditious and transparent manner. So yes. Well, allegedly corrupt elements. Let me put it that way, before the court.
I think that you have agreed with me. What it does is that it shows the public that there is an urgency in the police service, and that it is not everything that we can prevent the police. Not everything that they can prevent, but they certainly can respond more robustly, more quickly, more timeously. And in this case, they did, and that is an encouraging sign.
Unfortunately, again, as at Saturday into Sunday, we've played video this morning of men dressed in police uniforms, or uniforms that seem close to police uniforms. I see 2 newspapers have described it as fake cops this morning, kidnapping someone who is still unaccounted for. How concerned are you about this trend now?
Well, I'm very concerned about the development. I'm not sure that I want to give it the nomenclature of a trend, but I'm very concerned about the development. I can't tell you too much about the response. Suffice it to say that the AKS is very much onto the situation, and I really do hope at the end of the day that the kidnapped gentleman is returned to his family. And I want to tell the perpetrators that the police are doing their work and the AKS is working, and hopefully very soon you all will see results in that regard. I can't go into too much details, gentlemen. You would appreciate that, but I assure you that they are working night and day up to very close to midnight last night. We were in contact with the police with respect to this matter, and they're working on it.
Well, Minister, shouldn't we also, as a consequence, and we are happy to hear that the AKS, they're working diligently to bring about positive results, but shouldn't we also hear from the TTPS concerning this alarming development in terms of alerting citizens? What are the signs we need to look for? Because surely 6 men dressed in what appears to be police garb coming at you in a car that has blue lights on its dashboard. How should citizens respond to that? Shouldn't the TTPS at least tell us?
Well, that was, and let me say this, it's a case-by-case basis. I will not be one to tell the police how they should do their work. I suspect that they may very well have a sensitization exercise. I am not sure about it. I am not sure that that is one that could have been planned for, so to speak. There maybe it is now the time where people may have to keep their doors closed in situations like that. Call a police station. I don't know, but that is something that the police service has to do if they see it necessary. And what we don't want to do is to sensationalize it to the point where there are copycats. You know, we are the land of the mimic men sometimes in terms of the criminal element, and someone may want to copy that and do it over, and we have to be careful, we have to be sophisticated, but I can tell you, as it relates to a response, that there is a response. I mean,
Minister Scotland, you stop short of wanting to use the nomenclature of trend. On one hand, where kidnappings are concerned, we had all but eliminated kidnappings for a number of years, thank God, in this country. And according to the newspaper report yesterday, we've already at 18 for ransom this year, which is a marked increase from last year. So that is an upward trend, one. And two of the newspapers last week documented the discovery by police of uniforms and other police insignia, which was seized by criminal elements, more than likely going to perpetrate crimes dressed as police officers. So that is another trend. So I don't know how you can say it's not a trend, one, because it's people are seeing it. And to Wendell's question, as a member of the public, you have to comply with the lawful instructions of an officer.
Senator Richards, I can say it's not a trend because I will not want to label it a trend. I did say development, so you give me a little credit for that, but I am not saying it's a trend. But what I am, and I have said that it's a development. What I want to say is, and what I have said is that the response will come from the police as it relates to sensitization, because that's, I think, the question that was posed by Mr. Stevens. I'm saying that the police will do that, but in the meantime, the robust response is what is necessary to this, because I don't think that we could have budgeted for this, no pun intended, but we are certainly going, and the police is certainly going to respond to this development. Certainly.
Well,
I would like, pardon?
No, I was just saying that I hope the response is not like the one that they gave concerning the use of the police car in dropping off two men who were later arrested with guns. I hope that's not the kind of response we get from the TTPS again.
I was alerted to that. You give persons, you hear the response, you take it in the context, you make a common sense deliberation on it, and we wait and see what the police would say. I will not be one to prejudge what a response will be or say what a response ought to be. I think the officer said that he was delivering an innocent drop. Isn't that the response that came from the officer concerned?
But the one where they said that he was not part of any. They concluded that he was not part of any incident that aided and abetted criminals. That's what they said. But he was clearly seen in a video dropping them off.
So that is something that I'm sure is under investigation internally and maybe externally if there's anything untoward, if any crime has been committed. The officer, gave a response, and I guess that response will have to be viewed in light of all the circumstances, including the video evidence.
Yeah. Another thing I want to touch on quickly, Minister, because I don't know how long we have you for, is this issue of non-lethal weapons for police officers that are faced sometimes with mentally disturbed people. Because we had an incident, and not for the first time, where police officers offloaded bullets on a young man who was having an episode, a mental episode. He is now dead. He had no weapon on him. He was probably just acting irrational and saying things and charging at them. And he was shot to his chest and subsequently died. This is not the first time, as I said, we have had incidents like this. And we've spoken ad nauseum about non-lethal weapons for police officers. Can we expect to hear a statement on that?
That matter relating, well, firstly, let me express my sincere condolences to the father of the deceased young man. I read the article where he was, of course, in grief. That will be an issue of training or more training for police officers to deal with situations like that. I cannot, and we were not there, so we do not know exactly what transpired. So I will not want to comment on it. But what I would want to say is, in all situations, armed and unarmed, the measured approach is always recommended. I do not know all the facts except for what I've read in the newspapers, so I wouldn't want to comment any further in that regard. I want to say this though, if you look at sometimes, and you have to be fair to the police in some regard. I'm not speaking about this situation. In other situations, gentlemen, you would agree with me that the criminals are not using non-lethal weapons, you know. In fact, they're using weapons which, when they press the trigger, normally you will have a 9mm or a Barretto, so when you press, you know, you have a chance to reload or whatever the bullet goes into the chamber. Now, what they're using is things that repeat themselves. That is why sometimes if they go at one target, 4 or 5 people are shot and injured. So you have to bear that in mind when it comes to the police and response in a general nature. And you have to admit that that is what is happening now. There's a proliferation of automatic illegal weapons, and the police that is what they're facing now. That is what the country is facing now.
Well, Minister, I could understand that in the context of the police being engaged by obvious criminal elements, you know. I could understand the use of force policy, but I can't understand it in the case where someone is clearly unarmed and acting in an irrational manner that clearly indicates some sort of mental breakdown. I can't understand the use of force policy in that case.
I would allow the report of the incident to unfold. I am not sure what you mean by clearly a mental breakdown, because that is situational. That very well may depend on whether there was prior knowledge of the individual, etc., etc. And in real time, I would just say we have to be cautious before we come to any conclusion. What I will say, however, and I will repeat, is that we do express sincere condolences for the father of the young man, because as I tend to say, you know, there's no coming back from death unless it's the afterlife, you know.
Minister, let me ask you a question here. When someone becomes an officer, are they retrained after a few years, or is it one time they get into the service and that's it?
No, there's always training opportunities for police officers. It's an ongoing one. In fact, I can tell you that after budget, there's a training exercise that is being worked on now for the police officers as it relates to submissions for bail for perpetrators of egregious crimes relating to firearms and ammunition, and submissions in sentencing, where the police, you know, they are police informants, meaning the officer who brings the charge, we have a say with the prosecutor in terms of what is the views of the complainant as it relates to a sentence for certain offenses. Because we are of the opinion that in dealing with the mens rea, mental element, when people sit down and plot a crime, sentencing, if a message in keeping with the laws is sent to the perpetrators, they may be deterred. Like-minded offenders and the actual offender may be deterred from perpetrating serious acts in this country. It's something that we must deal with head on, and the time is right for that. There was a time in the 80s, and there's gentlemen I know, Senator Richard and Mr. Stevens, I know you all will do your research, but there was a thinking in the court in a case of Mandata Singh, and it's a judgment of Sharma, J.A., former CJ as he then was. And it says that, the courts, it was a bail application, and it said that the courts are not representative of the public view, but in fact the courts in the judicial aspect is supposed to guide and lead the public view and ought not to internalize the public's expression in certain circumstances, and that persons ought to be granted bail. I think now that the jurisprudence is changing because of the challenges being faced, and from that background, the police are going to be sensitized to put forward that change in approach and a more rigorous approach in objecting to bail in certain circumstances, and also being more forceful in implementing the laws. So, for example, there are laws, if you are found to be a recidivist in firearms, that you may be sentenced to life. When last have you heard someone sentenced to life for a firearm? Or to 25 years? Or to 15 or to 20 years? We admit that each case must be decided on its own facts, but we want to be, the police will be a little more robust in their approach, and that is a training exercise that we would want to engage with the officers. It's their exercise, but we are part of it because it's very important in reducing, we think, incidents of criminal activity involving arms and ammunition in Trinidad and Tobago. So the short answer is yes, there's continuous training, and the long answer is I've just given you a specific aspect of training that will be part of the police service, and at least 2,000 officers.
Before you go, just switching gears, as someone who is an elected MP,